Hello everyone. This is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto Uzumaki met his unknown brother in chaos, time travel, and devil's luck changed everything. Naruto times Hinata times Ino times Sakura times brother times harem, part 1. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. Naruto Uzumaki sat on top of the Hokage monument on Saturday, a week before his third genin exam at the academy to see if he could pass. He was sitting with his knees against his chest in his orange outfit when a voice behind him said, "Yo," startling him as he turned quickly ready to run in case it was an attack and blinked as he saw someone standing there who looked like an older version of him. Naruto asked, "Who are you?" The man laughed and said, "I guess I lost that bet. I figured you would have screamed what the hell. Anyways, to answer your question, I'm a 17-year-old you from the future." Naruto blinked and said, What do you mean you're me from the future? How is that possible?" The man said, "It's possible seeing as I'm standing right here before you, and to keep from getting confused just call me Arashi for now. Anyways, you see this?" As he pulled his sleeve up showing a seal on his wrist. Naruto nods and Arashi said, "This is a genjutsu seal I made to hide my looks, and I am going to put it on now so if anyone walks up they don't know who I am, and I won't have to tell them I'm from the future since I am not here for them but you, so don't freak out." As he bit his thumb and wiped the blood across the seal and sent chakra to it, and he was covered in smoke, and in his place was a red-headed person who looked like a cross between Shikamaru and Naruto. Arashi said, "Now, do you mind if we sit down? I got a lot to talk to you about." Naruto nods and they both sit down, and Naruto asked, "Why are you here?" Arashi sighed as he looked over the village and said, "The village is peaceful right now. To answer your question, when I was your age I made a lot of mistakes that caused me a lot of pain that eventually wound up destroying Konoha, causing Naruto to go wide-eyed." Arashi said, "Also some of those mistakes are killing me now, literally." Naruto asked, "So, you came back in time to make sure you didn't make the same mistakes again?" In a quiet voice. Arashi said, "No, I came back in time to make sure you didn't make the same mistakes I did. Nothing will ever change the mistakes I made, and all those I knew are dead. You are still young and have your life ahead of you, and no, I will not tell you about the future. What I am going to do is teach you the skills you will need in the future to make the best choices, and you will live with the choice of what to do and what not to do. All I am here to do is to teach you things and tell you about our past, why the people don't like you and who our parents are. From now on I want you to think of me as your big brother because I'm not you and you're not going to be me. Got that?" Naruto was afraid to say anything, nods, and Arashi said, "Now I guess I can start off with our parents since I know how important that is. Our mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki. She was originally from Whirlpool and a great kunoichi from what I heard. She had red hair and green eyes. Most likely the reason you like Sakura so much is because you instinctively remember mom, and Sakura is a lot like her. Kushina was a tomboy but also very beautiful. She died the day the Kyuubi attacked Konoha, giving birth to you, but it wasn't your fault. The doctor was in a hurry because of all the other victims who were hurt and forgot to make sure she was completely okay when he left, and when he returned to check on her she had passed away in her sleep peacefully." Naruto looked down and said, "At least she didn't suffer." Arashi smiled and said, "No, she didn't from what I heard. As for dad, you have to promise me that you will listen to everything I am about to say and never tell anyone about this. If you do, then your life will be in extreme danger. Do you promise me?" Naruto nods and Arashi said, "All right, to tell you about dad I have to tell you why everyone doesn't seem to like you. The night you were born, when Kyuubi was attacking the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, used a forbidden jutsu not to kill the Kyuubi since it's impossible to kill a demon but to seal it away in a prison under the watch of someone he trusted to protect Konoha in his place. The person he trusted to protect Konoha and to keep the Kyuubi locked away was his newborn son." Naruto's eyes darted back and forward as his eyes went wide, and he clenched his fist and he closed his eyes and let tears fall, and he said, "It's me." Arashi said, "You are the prison and the warden that holds the Kyuubi back. Those who are old enough to remember that night know this, but they don't know who dad was and they can't know, or dad's enemies will come and kill you. The Sandaime passed a law saying that nobody was allowed to tell about the Kyuubi being sealed inside of you or they would be killed so that you could try and have a normal life. You are what is known as a Jinchuriki or the power of a human sacrifice. The people of Konoha know this and they are afraid that you will one day let the Kyuubi lose on them since you are his warden also and can use his powers, so they are doing what they think is best to protect themselves and make you think about not releasing the Kyuubi. Naruto bit his lip and asked, will that ever change? Will they ever see me as me and not the Kyuubi? Arashi said, if you show them that you are different than Kyuubi, yes, they will change. I remember after I saved the village once and came back, everyone in the village was at the gates waiting for me and cheering for me and gave me praise and thanks for saving them. Naruto smiled and Arashi said, so do you want to be seen as you and not the Kyuubi? If you do, then the first thing you need to do is forgive them so you can move on with your life. Will you forgive them for being stupid and scared? Naruto bit his lip and said, yeah, do I ever become Hokage? Arashi said, maybe not. I'm not you and you're not me, and unless you become Hokage I won't tell you. If you have the same mission I did when you return from your mission, you will tell me about how yours went and I will tell you how mine went, so that way you can see the change for yourself. You will have to make your own choices and live with them. Naruto pouted and Arashi said, anyways, the first thing you need to do if you want to show people the real you is to pass the Genin exam. I know about your trouble with the clone jutsu and it's not your fault because dad wanted to make you strong enough to protect Konoha, so he made it where a little bit of Kyuubi chakra goes into your system all the time and is turned into your chakra. That is why your chakra control is so bad and why you have too much chakra to make a bunshin. The teachers at the academy never thought of the problem of having too much chakra from a student before, so they don't realize you need less and keep telling you to put more in it. Of all the teachers in the academy, Iruka is the best one there. I can teach you another bunshin jutsu that will let you pass, but you need to learn it and then talk to Iruka privately after class one day before the exams and tell him that you found out about the Kyuubi hearing a couple people talking and they joked about how you had too much chakra to make a regular bunshin, and so you found someone who taught you another bunshin, and could he ask the Hokage if you could substitute it for the regular bunshin. Just make sure that Mizuki isn't around when you do talk to him about it. Naruto asked, why? Arashi said, Mizuki is one of the more idiotic and see you as the Kyuubi in human form. If he thought you would pass, he would try and trick you into getting killed. If Iruka agrees, go with him to the Hokage and demonstrate the jutsu I want you to learn. If he asks where you learned it from, tell him it was from your new brother. I'll show you where I live and he can come see me if he wants. So do you want to pass or not? Naruto said, of course I do. How can I become Hokage if I don't become a ninja first? Arashi said, alright, before we begin I want you to promise me one thing. From now until the Chunin exams in 6 months I don't want you to ask out Sakura. Naruto frowned and said, why? Arashi said, because you need to focus on training to get stronger instead of love right now. You're still young and right now Sakura cares about Sasuke, who is a jerk, and if you don't let her see that he is a jerk then she won't ever think of going out with you. I'm not saying she will go out with you, but you should give her room to breathe and grow. Also, there are other girls who like you and you have been ignoring like Sasuke ignores Sakura. You might want to step back and look around you. You might find someone you like better than Sakura. Who can tell, since women are the one thing men will never understand. So will you calm down from trying to get with Sakura and work on being a ninja from now until the Chunin exams? Naruto thought a moment and said, alright, I promise. Arashi said, good, the jutsu I want to show you is the Kajbunshin no Jutsu. It only has one hand sign and you put as much chakra as you can into the jutsu while doing the same thing you do when you make a regular bunshin by imagining what it will look like. Here is the hand sign. As he showed the hand sign, Naruto put his hands together and Arashi said, wait, let's go into the woods so no one sees the smoke and comes to see what is going on. As he lead Naruto into the woods. When they got there, Arashi said, go wild. Naruto smiles and tried it and single clone appeared and then burst apart, and Arashi said, don't try to make one clone, try to make an army of them. More chakra equals more clones. Naruto nods and tries it again and Arashi said, try again and more. Keep going until I tell you to stop. 2 hours later Naruto was panting and Arashi said, good job Naruto, you got that jutsu down. It originally took me 3 hours to learn it as good as you since I learned it by myself and I thought I needed less chakra instead of more. Now rest while I show you 2 other things. The first is this. As he picked up a leaf and placed it on his head and made it float. Naruto said, "Hey, Iruka showed me that once." Arashi said, "That was Iruka trying to help you pass. Like I said, he is a great teacher and you should thank him because he tried to be fair to everyone. This is called the leaf exercise. It is a chakra control exercise. I want you tomorrow to come back to this place and create as many Kajbunshin as you can at one time and have them work on this exercise. Have them work on their forehead and when they get it down try it again on their hands like this." As he showed how to do it. Naruto asked, "Why?" Arashi said, "Because anything like jutsu practice or chakra control a Kajbunshin learns is transferred to you in every clone that you have out there at the time. While your clones are working on those I want you to do this." As he walked up a tree and walked back down. Arashi said, "That is also a chakra control exercise called tree climbing. You put chakra on the bottom of your feet and ask it to stick to the tree. Like the leaf exerts too much chakra and it will blow off, too little and it won't stick. I want you to work on this tomorrow and I will show up to see you but be careful and don't run out of chakra. Use a kunai to mark your progress and eat a good breakfast tomorrow but make sure to check the expiration date on the food before you eat it. I'll come here around noon and I want to see your progress with the leaf balance on the hands and head and your progress on a tree." Naruto said, "Why can't you teach me another cool jutsu like the Kajbunshin no Jutsu?" Arashi said, "Because the more control you have over your chakra the more cool jutsu I can teach you later. Besides, because of the seal you have to practice a lot with chakra control if you want to get better or you will get worse. Now any other questions before I leave?" Naruto said, "Do I marry Sakura?" Arashi shrugs and said, "I don't know, we will have to see if you someday do or don't. CYA. As he left in a swirl of leaves. Naruto eyes got wide and thought, I am going to be so cool when I grow up. As he looked at the 40 Kajbunshin and he said, alright listen up. You all saw and heard Ni-san. Start working on the leaf exercise while I work on the tree climbing. As he ran at the tree and blew off on the first step. As he landed on his back he said, ow. Before he slowly got up again and tried it again. The next day around noon Naruto was halfway up a tree when his control slipped and he back-flipped and as he landed he heard clapping and he looked over and saw Arashi leaning against the tree and said, good job on making it that far and I see your clones are also doing it now. Let me guess, you stayed out here late last night and worked on them huh? Naruto said, wouldn't you? Arashi said, probably, if I would have realized that the Kajbunshin transferred memories back to me and the others 3 years earlier. Alright Kagebunshin, all eyes on me. Good, now I want you all to fight each other as best as you can so I can see what your taijutsu skills are, go. All the Kajbunshin turned and began fighting each other and Arashi held up a bag to Naruto who smiled and took the bag seeing it was Ikiruka ramen and he began to eat as a slight headache hit him. Arashi said, so, did you pass out here last night? Naruto blushed and Arashi said, Naruto, the Kajbunshin no Jutsu is a forbidden Junin level jutsu that can kill you. You have to be careful and when you have your clones dispel have them dispel in small groups no larger than 10 at a time when you use them for learning instead of fighting. Naruto said, hi Ni-san, I will. As he ate some more. Arashi said, good, now you should know you can't teach that jutsu to anyone without my approval because it could kill them and you don't want that do you? Naruto said, no, of course not. Arashi said, I'm glad you understand. Gigi gave me a 2-hour lecture on that when I first learned it and I'm trying to save you from that lecture. Now I am glad to see your progress and as a reward I am going to teach you the first 5 kata of a taijutsu style that kicks called the Gamma Fist. Are you done eating? Naruto who was finishing the broth said, yes, as he threw the bowl in the bag. Arashi said, good, now follow me to my house and I will show you the 5 kata there. As he got up and led Naruto deeper into the woods and they came to a house in the woods in a small clearing and Arashi said, this house doesn't actually belong to me yet. It belongs to your godfather Jiraiya of the Sanins. I know what you're thinking, if he's my godfather where has he been? The answer to that is he has been around and has helped you out, but you didn't know it, and also he is very important to the safety of Konoha. He's Konoha top spymaster and he looks for anything that could be a danger to Konoha and most importantly you. The apartment building you live in is owned by him and the money you get from Gigi is sent by him to Gigi for you to live on. This is his home when he comes to Konoha and it's why I live here because I plan to reveal myself to him and give him information to help Konoha without anyone knowing. I should also mention Ero Sanin as the world's largest super pervert, but he taught me a lot of important lessons on life that I am forever grateful for. I hope you won't hate him for not being here for you, but like I said, he did what he could while protecting Konoha and you, and if he would have taken you with him since he trained Dad. Naruto said. Dad's enemies would have realized who I was and killed me, it doesn't seem fair. Arashi put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, a lot of things in life are not fair. All we can do is try to make the best of what comes our ways and live with the rest. Naruto frowned and said, I don't have to like it. Arashi said. Then change it. Do what you feel is best, but for now we got training to do. From now until Wednesday night when you go to bed I want you to keep having Ukajbunshin practice the tree climbing and the leaf balancing, but try and combine them by climbing the tree while balancing one leaf and then 2 leaves and then 3 leaves. While they are doing that I want you to work on mastering the Gamma Fist Kata I am about to show you. Thursday I want you to rest up and relax however you feel you should, but you are not to show Ukajbunshin to anyone unless it's the Hokage and Iruka, and then on test day. After you graduate you can do whatever you feel like, but remember, you're trying to change the way people see you. Do you want them to see you as a practical joker and prankster or someone else? I'm not saying don't prank someone, but just be sure you are willing to live with the outcome of doing it. Naruto said. You're going to tell me to do things and not to do things all the time, aren't you? Arashi said. I'm your big brother, of course I'm going to nag you about those things all the time. It's my job. Now watch closely. As he took a stance and Naruto eyed it, and after a minute he moved into the next stance and Naruto said, why are your legs like that? Arashi smiled and said, because this style of taijutsu was made by the toads for them, and toads do a lot of leaping to cover great distances and pack a lot of power in their hits. This style is the perfect balance of speed and power. After you learn all 40 kata of this style I am going to teach you the improved version of it that I made, and once you can do that I will challenge you to improve it even further. I want you to surpass me in every way, little brother. Now watch as I do the rest. Naruto watched them, and after Arashi finished he said, now create your Kajbunshin army to go practice chakra control while you do the kata, and I will correct you for the next hour. Naruto said. Hi. As he created 120 Kajbunshin, and Arashi thought, not bad, but he's not touching his real power yet. As he watched Naruto send his clones into the woods and took the first stance. Arashi said, move your left foot a little more and bend your knees a little more. Good. Shoulders back. As he continued to correct Naruto form. After an hour was up, Arashi said, good, now I have a task for you. That clearing where you trained at before. I want you to take this shovel and go back to that clearing, and I want you to dig me a 20-foot wide and 10-foot deep hole. Naruto said. Why? Looking confused. Arashi said. The actual digging will strengthen your arms and shoulders, making it where you can punch harder. Also, the hole is going to be used for your future training. I want that hole finished by next Sunday, and you are not allowed to use your Kajbunshin to help you. If you are done with it by then I will teach you another jutsu and show you the next 5 kata. If not, then you will have fill that hole back in and move to another clearing and start all over again until you get it done in a week's time. Also, when you get out from the academy every day I want you to come here for 1 hour of kata practice on those 5 kata where we will work on moving between each kata and increasing your speed in them. After that you will leave and go back to that clearing and train and also work on that hole. As long as you come for that 1 hour of kata practice every day after school, have your Kajbunshin work on chakra control, rest on Thursday so you will be ready to pass on Friday and finish that hole. I don't care what you do with your free time, but don't come here unless I tell you to and only when I tell you to. Naruto looked confused and asked, why can't I come see you when I want to? Arashi said, because I will be busy working elsewhere. I need money to live off of, and there is no reason for you to come here when nobody is here, and also this house is a secret that only a few people know of, and there are those like Mizuki who might say you are breaking in here if they find you here without me here to tell them you're allowed. You don't want to get in trouble, do you? Naruto looked down and said, no. I guess I was worried you didn't want me around. Arashi put his hand on Naruto's shoulder and said, never going to happen. The only time you can break that rule is if you decide you're ready to talk to Iruka about your bunshin and Gigi wants to come see me. Tell him to come to your godfather's place to talk to me and tell him I'm not coming into town either because I don't want the one-armed bandit to know about me. Naruto asked. One-armed bandit? Who's that? Arashi said. A royal pain in the. Gigi will understand and you will also once you make Chunin. Naruto said. Alright, so do I need to leave now? Arashi said. Yeah, I got to meet someone soon about a job. I wish I could talk more and maybe later we can, but for now this is all I can do. Besides, if you really want to get strong you need to learn to figure things out on your own and train yourself without someone telling you to. If your sensei isn't there when you arrive, do light warm-ups like sit-ups and push-ups and squats like you did in the academy to help build up your muscles. Do a light jog around your training ground or practice chakra control. Always look for ways to improve yourself. Naruto smiled and said, okay. I'll show you Ni-san, I'll surpass you. Arashi said. I hope you're right. Remember though you can't tell anyone about dad. You can tell about mom but not dad, and don't mention Ero Sanin as your godfather either. Now go. Spread the flames of youth. Naruto looked confused and Arashi shook his head and said, it's a joke you will figure out later. CYA tomorrow bro. As he walked toward the cabin. Naruto turned and ran into the woods with the shovel. When Arashi walked into the house, a person who was sitting at the table said, did you really have to quote Lee and Guy? Arashi said, at least I didn't tell him to wear spandex. The person at the table said, I would have killed you, so what do you think will happen now? Arashi said, I figure Gigi going to come here ready to kill me demanding answers sometimes this week, so when are you going to reveal yourself Haruka? A woman with red hair and green eyes said, the day of team placements at lunch Arashi. Arashi said, good, you know, I wonder if he's will paint the Hokage monument like I did. Haruka said, he's you, of course he is, so how are you feeling? Arashi frowned and said, I'll need treatment tomorrow. It's about every 6 days right now. Haruka said, has the seal collapsed anymore? Arashi said, no, I think I've managed to stabilize it for now, but Kyuubi chakra is still poisoning me since it's too much for the filter. The only hope we have is if Ero Sanin can fix the filter. I may know a lot about seals but I'm not as good as Ero Sanin and dad were. Haruka walked over and hugged Arashi said, we will find a way to save you my love. Arashi closed his eyes and said, I can't believe we're together after all this time. Haruka said, you can't believe it. I can't believe that you were a. As she was silenced by him placing his finger to her mouth and he said, that's all history now. Everyone we knew are gone. All we have left is each other and a chance to start a new life here. If Gigi, Bakken, and Ero Sanin agree then we can get a little more of our life back. Haruka said, it will all work out. I promise. Arashi said, I'm glad. As he sat down at the table where a meal was waiting for him and he began to eat. The next several days flew by for Naruto as he followed Arashi orders and after school went to Arashi house for an hour of kata practice where he was starting to get more comfortable with them, and his clones had been working on combining leaf balancing with tree climbing, which was harder than Naruto first expected, and he lost a lot of clones who focused too much on one and not on the other and either had to start over or fell and went up in smoke from the hard impact. Naruto also was working on the hole for Arashi and his arms were tired as he had to dig around roots and cut them out after asking Arashi did he want those roots in the hole. Today was Thursday and class had just ended and Naruto waited as all the other students were leaving and he walked to Haruka's desk who was filling out some papers and he saw Shikamaru and Choji walking out as the last students and didn't see Mizuki and said, I'm Haruka-sensei. Haruka said, yes Naruto. As he stopped and looked up at Naruto. Naruto bit his lip and said, do you know about? As he touched his stomach. Haruka, whose eyes momentarily went wider, asked, what do you mean? Wanting to make sure Naruto was talking about the Kyuubi. Naruto bit his lip and said, Kyuubi. Haruka bit his lip and nods and Naruto said, can I talk to you about something related to that? I know about the law and I know that only the Hokage and I can talk about it and I give you permission to talk about it because this is important. Iruka said. Perhaps we should go to the Hokage to talk about it just to make sure if that's alright, Naruto. Naruto rubbed his head and said, yeah, I guess that would work. Iruka said, alright, let me just finish this and we can go. You can wait a few minutes for me, right? Naruto nods and said, yeah, I'll work on tree climbing. As he walked over and began to walk on the walls, shocking Iruka until he was 2 feet off the wall, and he pulled out a couple of leaves and had them begin to float on his head and one on each hand. Iruka thought, Naruto must have been working on his chakra control hard to be able to do that, but I wonder how he figured out tree climbing. As he quickly finished what he was doing and said, alright Naruto, I'm ready. Naruto nods and sets his feet back on the ground and puts the leaves back in his pocket and said, okay, let's go Iruka-sensei. By the way, thanks for trying to teach me the leaf balancing and I'm sorry I didn't listen to you better over it. Iruka said as they left the academy heading to the Hokage Tower. It appears as if you got the hang of it down and I'm surprised you thought of adding it to your hands and combining it with the tree walking exercise. How did you learn that? Naruto said. Well, after I found out about that, someone gave me the advice on how to do it and also told me the leaf exercise again, and they told me when I mentioned you taught it to me that you were trying to teach me the lesson I needed the most to pass in your own way while being fair to everyone. Iruka smiled a little and said, I'm glad you got your control down. I was worried you might not pass. Naruto frowned a moment and said, that's sort of what I needed to talk to you about. I'll explain when we get to see Gigi. Iruka frowned and said, I see. As he thought, can he still not do the Bunshin Jutsu? That can't be right. As they got to the Hokage office and got permission to enter, the Sandaime Hokage was doing paperwork when he looked up and smiled and said, so what do I owe the pleasure of this visit, Iruka? Has Naruto been causing trouble again? Iruka said, actually sir, Naruto asked to talk to me about something I wasn't sure I could talk about. Perhaps you should tell him, Naruto. The Sandaime frowned slightly and asked, what is it, Naruto? Naruto said, I know about Kyuubi. Causing the Sandaime eyes to widen, and he said, what do you mean? Naruto said, I know about the law, I know about the Yondaime and the ceiling, and I know about how you wanted me to have a better life, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about because I've already come to terms with that. The Sandaime frowned and said, then what is it you wanted to talk about and how did you find out about it? Naruto said, people talk when they think no one is listening, and I heard a couple of people talk about it when I was in the village. They were making fun of me because they were wondering if I would try a 4th time to take the test, since people were telling me to add more chakra to the Bunshin Jutsu when I have too much chakra for that jutsu thanks to the fox chakra mixing with my own and not enough control for it. Luckily Nii-san came and taught me the tree climbing and told me to relearn the leaf balancing exercise Iruka tried to teach me, and he also taught me Kujibunshin no Jutsu, and yes, I know it's a Junin level jutsu and a forbidden jutsu, and I know why it's forbidden, and you don't need to lecture me about not teaching it to anyone. Iruka frowned and said, you can do the Kujibunshin no Jutsu. Naruto nods and puts his hands together and said, Kujibunshin no Jutsu. As the room was filled with smoke and when it cleared there were 20 Kujibunshin in the room, shocking the Sandaime and Iruka. The Sandaime said, who is this Nii-san that you mentioned, Naruto? Naruto said, he told me you would want to meet him and he said he is living out at Jiraiya Place but he's not coming to town because of some one-armed bandit. He said you would know who he was talking about. Anyways, why I wanted to talk to you about, since I am unable to pass the regular Bunshin and can do Kujibunshin no Jutsu, can I use it to pass? I've spent every day since Saturday learning tree climbing and relearning the leaf balancing and I've gotten them down. Iruka said, it's true sir. He showed me earlier he could combine the tree climbing and leaf balancing exercise on his head and hands at the same time, though he still hasn't mastered that much, but the fact he was able to get them together shows he should have high genin level chakra control, but if he can't produce the Bunshin no Jutsu then. The Sandaime said, I understand what you're saying and I am forced to agree. Has your Nii-san taught you anything else, Naruto? Naruto said, he told me about Kushina Uzumaki, my mother, what he knew about her, and been teaching me the first 5 kata of a taijutsu style called the Gamma Fist. He's had me let my Kajbunshin go wild on the chakra control exercises while I've been digging a hole that is 20 feet wide and 10 feet deep, and I have to have it finished by Sunday evening. He said it was strength training to help me use the taijutsu style better. The Sandaime who was shocked and said, I see, anything else? Naruto said, perhaps. Some things he told me, but I know better than to open my mouth about because I would be in great danger from those my family enemies. I trust you and I pretty much trust Iruka since he's never treated me any different than anyone else in class, but I figure if knowing about my mom was a secret and the Kyuubi was a secret, then the other things he told me would definitely be a secret. He said if you wanted to see him he's at Jiraiya's. Anyway, about the graduation test. The Sandaime nods and said, I'll allow it. I guess it never occurred to me either that the fox's chakra adding to your own would have that much of an effect on you, since by doing that many Kajbunshin you showed you have at least Junin level reserves. Naruto looked around and said, but this is only 20 Kajbunshin. I usually train with a little over 100 at a time, causing both Iruka and the Sandaime to go wide-eyed. Iruka said, 100. Naruto said, yeah, want to see. As he dismissed the Kajbunshin in the room and put his hands together, and the Sandaime said, and you can make 100 right now even after making the 20. Naruto said, yeah. Ni-san said by the time the Chunin exams get here I should be able to make a 1000 of them at a time if I keep up my chakra control exercises. The Sandaime said, I see. Well, I have a lot of work to do and I am sure Iruka has things to prepare for tomorrow, and yes, Iruka, I give permission again for him to use Kajbunshin instead of regular Bunshin. Iruka said, right. And Naruto, I look forward to passing you tomorrow, but I wouldn't have minded having you in my class another year also. You made them interesting. Naruto said, hey, I try. With a smile, and Iruka turned and left, and as Naruto was about to leave the Sandaime said, hold up a minute Naruto. Naruto stops as the Sandaime got up, closing the door, and he said, so did your Ni-san talk about your father since he seemed to know who your mother was? Naruto frowned and walked over and touched the picture of the Yondaime on the wall and said, I know but my lips are sealed. ... I was angry with you for not telling me earlier, but I understand and thank you. I also know why my godfather hasn't been here, and I don't blame the people of the village for being idiots. Ni-san told me if I want to prove to the people I'm me and not the fox, I have to first forgive them and not let the past control me and to move on. The Sandaime said, your Ni-san sounds like a wise man. Perhaps I should go meet him. Would you like to come? Naruto looked at the clock and said, sure, I usually get there about this time anyways for my kata practice. The Sandaime said, then let me get us there quicker. As he placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and both left in a swirl of leaves. 3 more times, appearing once on the Hokage monument, once in the woods, and then once on the edge of the clearing to the house, and the Sandaime saw smoke coming from the fireplace and he said, it appears as if he's here. As they began to walk toward the house. As they approached, the door opened and Arashi walked out and said, I was wondering when you would get here. Naruto, I'm going to create a Kajbunshin and have him work with you on the kata again, but try and not go overboard since you need to be rested for the test tomorrow to pass. Sandaime-sama, please come inside and have some tea. As a Kajbunshin appeared and walked over to Naruto and led him away from the house. As the Sandaime walked in, he was surprised to see Hakura there, and she smiled and said, it's good to see you again, Sandaime-sama. Sarutobi asked, do I know you? As the door was closed, Arashi said, you do, but since we're both wearing genjutsu seals you don't recognize us. May we turn them off without you freaking out? Sarutobi, who had moved so he could see both nods, and Arashi and Haruka both cancelled the seal and his eyes got wide, and Arashi said, hi Gigi, been a while. Sarutobi said, impossible. As he looked at both. Arashi raised up his shirt, channeling a little chakra so the seal could appear, and said, no, just a series of unlikely events. I'm a 17-year-old Naruto, and as you can tell, this is a 17-year-old Sakura Haruno. Hakura said, it's good to see you, sir. Sarutobi frowned and said, how? Arashi said, well, we're not really sure how. It was basically a free-for-all battle between Danzo, Sasuke Uchiha, Madara Uchiha, and us. It was a 5-way battle where Sasuke wanted Danzo dead for ordering Itachi to kill his clan. Danzo wanted to kill Sasuke and take his Sharingan eyes to add to his collection, Madara Uchiha, who had got Sasuke to join his side, wanted to destroy Danzo because Danzo had Orochimaru grow him an arm that had the Mokuden bloodline that Danzo had placed several Sharingan in, not counting the one he keeps covered up. Sakura arrived to kill Sasuke because he became an enemy to all 5 of the major hidden villages who had unified under the Raikage to stop Madara. I arrived to stop Sakura from killing him because she still cared for Sasuke but was willing to kill him so I wouldn't have the pain of being the one to heal him, and I wanted to kill him because he was a threat to Konoha, though I still felt he was my best friend. And when we saw Madara and Danzo and they saw me, Danzo tried to use the Mokuden and Sharingan eyes to control the Kyuubi in me to get the advantage. Madara tried to use his Sharingan to control the Kyuubi in me. Sasuke, not wanting me to get involved, used his Sharingan on me to stop Kyuubi chakra, and Itachi, before he died, put part of his soul inside the seal with the Kyuubi, and the seal had been completely restored after I had to use 8 taels worth of power to save Konoha, and Dad placed part of his soul in the seal so he could repair it if I ever got that far into releasing Kyuubi, and so all those things added together sort of was tearing me apart from the inside out, and Sakura, who was worried about me when my body started to destroy itself, ran to me to heal me since she was trained by Tsunade, and well, Hakura said, somehow the gift Itachi gave Naruto turned out to be similar to what Kakashi-sensei could do with his Mangekyou Sharingan and open a tear in time and space, and we both fell down into it and landed here about 3 months ago. Remember the earthquake that was reported near the Land of Iron? That sort of was us arriving. Naruto was severely injured and I had to nurse him back to health and find out what had happened, and we found we were in the past, and so we were coming here, but then we found a small problem. Arashi said. The problem is the seal was cracked a little, and since Dad repaired it already, I can't stop the leak that is going into my system, and since the Kyuubi chakra is poisonous, it's slowly killing me. Also, the Kyuubi itself is dead. Its soul was destroyed in the time travel accident, leaving its body parts inside the seal that are decaying. Hakura said. Right now his body is acting like a person who is an alcoholic or a smoker, both quitting cold turkey. His body is craving the Kyuubi chakra, and all it's getting is stale sake or the butt of a cigarette. About once a week I have to do a flush of his system to drain the poison from him, and we couldn't take the risk of coming into Konoha and changing things too much, so we came up with the idea of having Naruto, who visits the Hokage monument a lot, to get your attention, and the best way was to reveal some of the secrets around him to him so you would come here. If Danzo or Madara found out about us and there was a second Kyuubi here who was weakened since he can't use too much chakra at a time, in risk of speeding up the poisoning, he can't go all out. We're hoping Jiraiya-sama could fix the crack in the seal to stop the poisoning of his system. Sarutobi frowned and said, I see, what do you intend to do now? I mean, there doesn't seem to be a way to send you back. Hakura said, well, with your permission we would like to start our lives over here. I was Tsunade apprentice for 3 years and she claimed I was nearly surpassing her in skills as a medic, and so I was wanting to continue to be a medic from 6 a.m. till noon Monday through Friday. Sarutobi asked, why those hours, if I may ask? Arashi said, because Sakura and I both realize that we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to correct the mistakes we made when we were younger. Naruto knows what I really look like, and I told him to think of me as his older brother, though I won't ever reveal my real looks unless absolutely have to. I've taken the name of Arashi and I am going to teach Naruto in his free time the skills that he will need to face the challenges that are coming. Sakura wishes to do the same to her younger self, and she's taken the name Hakura. Naruto doesn't know about Sakura, and we aren't planning to tell little Sakura about Naruto and let them live their lives. We just want to give them the skills they will need to protect themselves and others, since they are going to be fighting S-rank missing nins very often in the future, even without our help. One of the biggest regrets I have is having to use Kyuubi chakra so much, because I didn't have the skills or power to stand up to those kind of enemies, and because of me being forced to use it as much, I was slowly being taken over by Kyuubi where he could get free, which is something we don't want. Sarutobi frowned and Arashi said, I'm going to take up farming here, and with Hakura, as she calls herself, now working at the hospital, we should be able to support ourselves, since I'm going to give Jiraiya all the info I have on Akatsuki to help him protect Konoha and Naruto. I would give it to you, but then when you tried to use it you would have to tell where you got it, and you could only claim Jiraiya told you, and unless Jiraiya knew and claimed it came from his spy network, then someone like Danzo would find a way to use that info against you to find out about us. We don't really want to draw attention to ourselves, and so we were thinking you could say we're refugees from the land of water who moved here to escape the civil war there, and Hakura could become a part-time sensei to Sakura to teach her about medical skills. Of course Hakura will have to tell Sakura the truth about herself, but besides her, you and Naruto, the only ones who should know about us will be Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune when they get here. We won't tell you how you should do things to make the future better, but we can give little hints as advice without getting into detail, because things could change and cost lives if you depend too much on our knowledge. Sarutobi thought a moment and said, nobody knows Kushina history besides she was once a whirlpool ninja. We can say that your parents, who were an aunt and uncle to Kushina, escaped from Whirlpool and moved to the land of water when Whirlpool village was destroyed, and you met Hakura there, and I am guessing you want to be with each other, am I correct? Hakura said. If you would, we would like you to marry us, yes. Arashi looked at her and said, are you sure, Hakura? Hakura said, yes Arashi, I told you once I love you. Now stop being a baka. Sarutobi said. Very well, I will have to have a witness for that. I take it you wish to take the Uzumaki name, correct? Arashi said. Yes. That way I can say any jutsu I show Naruto or family jutsu, and those like the Rasengan we can say Jiraiya taught Naruto once he's on board. The sooner the better on that case. As he rubbed his stomach. Sarutobi said. Very well. Once Jiraiya is on board I shall marry you both with him as a witness. I will also put you on at the hospital Hakura at those hours you requested, as I figure you were wanting to train Sakura in the afternoon. Hakura said. Yes. We're not going to be telling them much about the future and be as vague as possible with them as well, so you won't think we are hiding things from you with them. Sarutobi said. Very well. Is there anything you can tell me now that could help? Arashi said. Kill Danzo, but that's my personal opinion. Use Kajbunshin to do paperwork to give you more free time, but dismiss them one at a time and never more than an hour. Mizuki, a traitor who wants the Forbidden Scroll and originally had me steal it by making me believe it was another test to pass after I failed the third time. He wants to give it to Orochimaru. That's how I learned Kajbunshin no Jutsu. There's a mission coming up to the Land of Waves, AC rank. Team 7 with Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, under Kakashi Sensei needs that mission. It sort of defined the rest of our shinobi career and could gain a potential ally or two depending on how things work out. Hakura said. You might also want to train a little, sir. You've got some exercises coming up that at your age could become deadly if you don't take your doctor's advice. Also, there's some snakes making a home in rice field country, and it is mating season and the little snakes will be coming in. Maybe it might not be bad of an idea to help our allies now while we're so prosperous, because you could never tell when we might need their help or they might need ours. Sarutobi said. I see, so you're saying something's coming up that will require me to do battle, and that Orochimaru is building an army in rice field country. You're also saying something is going to happen with our allies. Arashi said. Sounds possible. Just because it might have happened once doesn't mean it will happen again, which is why we don't want to tell you too much, because things could and hopefully will change, but as Kakashi Sensei says, look beneath the underneath. Sarutobi said. Very well. I expect to see you tomorrow at 7 a.m. at the hospital Hakura, and I will introduce you to the director of the hospital and tell him I wish for you to work there. I will tell him you have emergency room experience as a medic. Sakura said. That will be fine, sir, and thank you. But why are you so willing to trust us, if I may ask? I mean, Arashi was sure you would be willing to help us, but I wasn't so sure. Sarutobi smirked and said. Long story short, he may be older now, but he's still Naruto, and there is something about Naruto that I can spot as a real or a fake with just one glance, and no, it's not his whiskers. Arashi said. It's my eyebrows, Hakura. I have an extra muscle there under them that bends a certain way when I am thinking about something hard. Hakura said. Oh, so that's why your eyebrows always seem to move sideways when you are concentrating hard. I thought it was just normal facial expressions. Sarutobi sighed and said. No, after the sealing I had a doctor give Naruto a very detailed exam and he discovered it. Anyways, I'm getting too old for this. Do I ever find a replacement? Arashi and Hakura glanced at each other, and Hakura said. Within a year Sir Tsunade will most likely become the Godime. Sarutobi said. I see, perhaps I should get her here before I retire then. Understanding the hidden meaning there. Arashi said. Well, if that is all, sir, it has been nearly an hour in Hakura and I were about to begin preparing dinner and I still need to dismiss Naruto to go home and rest for tomorrow test. Sarutobi said. Of course, and welcome home both of you. Arashi said. Thanks, Gigi. As he hugged the Sandame. Sarutobi smiled and asked, do you ever fulfill your dream, Arashi? Arashi said. Gaining the village recognition. Yes, becoming Hokage. Well, there was debates with who's going to be Rokudaime. Danzo and Kakashi were both in the running, but with my newly acquired status I was the underdog in that race. Sarutobi said. I see. Well, I must be going. Have a good evening both of you. As he walked out the door. Naruto saw the Sandame walk out and the Kajbunshin said, why don't you head back to town with the Sandame, Naruto? You need to rest for tomorrow. Also, he knows about me and he going to tell anyone who asks that I am a distant cousin of yours from the land of water. I'll give you a more detailed explanation later, but I'm in Uzumaki also officially. By the way, when you go to the academy tomorrow and the day of team placements, when you pass, sit in the back row as far away from Sasuke as you can. The fangirls are going to be aggressive the next few days since it's their last chance to see Sasuke, they think, and they want to get his attention and will hurt anyone who gets in their way, and even you could be put in the hospital for it. Naruto said. Alright, Ni-san, come on, Gigi. Sarutobi said. I'm coming, I'm an old man. Naruto scrunched his nose and said. Then retire and make me Hokage. Sarutobi laughed and said. I'm not that old yet. As he placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and sushioned them back to the village before leaving Naruto to head back to the tower. After they were gone and Arashi walked into the house, Hakura said, so you didn't want to relive your first kiss? Arashi said. Not with Sasuke. Hell no, causing Hakura to laugh. The next day Naruto walked into the test room after sitting in the back of the class and thought, Ni-san was right, those girls are crazy today. As he stood in front of Iruka and Mizuki. Iruka said. Alright, Naruto, do the henge, replacement, and a bunshin jutsu. Mizuki raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard Iruka stress the word A, and Naruto performed the henge, turning into Iruka, and then as Iruka threw a piece of chalk at Naruto, he replaced himself with a chair and then put his hands together in a seal Mizuki never saw before and said, Kage no jutsu. As the room was filled with smoke and when it cleared there was a dozen Kage bunshin. Iruka said. Congratulations, and the Hokage had this sent in case you passed. He said it was just like your mother's. As he handed Naruto a hayate with the Konoha leaf in the middle, but in each of the corners was a small Uzumaki spiral also, which was the symbol for whirlpool. Naruto smiled and said, Thanks, Iruka-sensei. As he put it on and began to walk out the door when Mizuki said, Wait a minute, he didn't do the bunshin no jutsu, so why are you passing him, Iruka? Iruka said. The Hokage said that Naruto has more chakra than a Junin, and because of this he will most likely never be able to do the bunshin no jutsu, so like that Rock Lee kid last year he allowed Naruto to pass by other means by learning a Junin level bunshin jutsu. You may go now, Naruto, and please send in Ino. Naruto nods and smiles and walks out and said, Ino, you're next. As he saw the shocked looks on everyone's faces, and Ino said, How did you pass? Naruto said, Practice, Ino. Shikamaru said, How come your hayate a little different than ours? Naruto, who had stopped halfway up the stairs, said, The Hokage informed me about my mother recently, who was originally from the land of Whirlpool before coming to Konoha to be a ninja. He had this hayate made for me like hers so that way I can show where my family came from, since that spiral on my cloths is sort of like a clan insignia, I think. The land of Whirlpool, the hidden village of Whirlpool, and the Uzumaki name all mean the same thing. I need to find out more about my family from there someday now that I at least know mom's name. Shikamaru said. Troublesome. As he laid his head back on the desk. Sakura said. What was your mom's name, Naruto? As she was curious. Naruto said. Kushina Uzumaki. Hiba began to cough at this and looked at Naruto in shock, and he said. Wait, your mom was the Akashinagami. Naruto looked confused and asked. Huh, what do you mean? Hiba said. Kushina Uzumaki was a teammate to my mom before she took over our clan. I remember mom mentioning her when I looked at her Genin team picture, and she said Kushina Uzumaki was also known as the Akashinagami, an S-rank Anbu caption. I asked her once if you could be related to her since you had the same last name, and she said she doubted it since Kushina had red hair and green eyes. Naruto said. Yeah, I got most of my looks from dad, I guess, from what Gigi told me. You think your mom might be willing to tell me about my mother? I mean, I don't want to bother her or anything, but I would like to learn more about her. Kiba said. Sure, I'll ask her, but did you find out what happened to her? Mom said she disappeared about 5 months before the Kyuubi attack. Naruto said. Mom passed away. The day I was born was also the day Kyuubi attacked, and the doctor was in a hurry to help other patients and didn't take care of her completely, and she passed away from it from what I was told. Kiba said. Oh. Sorry to hear that, man, but at least you know about your mom now. Do you know anything about your dad? Naruto fidgeted and said. Hey look, sensei back. As he saw Iruka walk back in the class with Ino and Mizuki. Iruka said. Congratulations everyone, and I am proud to say that you all passed this year. I want you all to come back on Monday at 10 a.m. and I will tell you about your teams you're on. You're all dismissed until then, and good luck and congratulations again for all your hard work. Dismissed. As everyone got up and began to leave, Kiba grabbed Naruto and said, Come on man, mom is probably outside and we can ask her right now. Naruto smiled and said, Thank Kiba. As he walked out with Kiba ignoring the looks several people were giving him. Kiba saw his mom and ran over and said, Mom, hey look, we passed. As he showed his height. Sume said, Congratulations Kiba, can I help you? As she saw Naruto walk up and stop beside Kiba. Kiba said, Oh yeah, Mom, you remember your old teammate Kushina. The Hokage told Naruto that was his mom's name, Kushina Uzumaki, with a smile on his face showing his canine teeth. Sume's eyes went wide a moment and she said, Did he now? Naruto fidgeted and said, Yes. The Sandaime who was nearby heard this and walked over to Naruto and said, Indeed I did. Because of Kushina's reputation, I was afraid her enemies might try and harm him if they knew for sure he was her son, but since most of his looks don't look like her, I thought it would be safe for him to have her name. Sume narrowed her eyes taking in Naruto features and she said, I see, and who might his father be? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and the Sandaime said, I'm afraid I can't say. Sume shot a look at the Sandaime, then at the Hokage monument, which both Naruto and the Sandaime saw, and Sarutobi gave a small nod and said, Well, I came over to congratulate you both on passing Kiba and Naruto, and I look forward to see how well you do as proud shinobi of Konoha. I must go now as I must congratulate the others as well. As he turned and walked away. Sume said, So you're Kushina kid, huh? You know what happened to her? Naruto said, Died shortly after childbirth from the doctor being in a hurry cause of the fox. Sume said, I see. I'm sorry to hear that. She was a great woman and a good friend. How much do you know about her? Naruto said, Just that she was originally from Whirlpool and that she had red hair and green eyes and really beautiful. Kiba told me that she was called the Aka Shinigami, but I don't know. Sume growled and said, Damn old fool. Yeah, Kushina was all that and more. She was a tomboy, strong-spirited, confident, and didn't take shit off anyone. Saved my life more times than I care to admit. If I'd known about you being her kid when you were younger, I'd adopted you. Naruto was shocked a moment and then he frowned and said, I appreciate the offer, miss. Sume said, Call me Sume. Naruto said, Thank you Sume, but, as he bit his lip and looked as if he was trying to find the right words. Kiba said, But what man? Mom was just saying you could have been my brother. Are you trying to say we're not good enough or something? Naruto quickly shook his head no and said, No Kiba, you got it all wrong. There's just some things you don't know about that I've learned that would have made things difficult. I don't want to cause any trouble or anything, and I don't want your mom feeling she needs to give me special treatment because of who my mom was. I've only seen your mom a few times over the years, and today the first time I've ever actually talked to her, and I don't want her to feel obligated that she owes me anything when I don't deserve it. As he was waving his hands in front of him. Sume frowned and said, Don't worry about that happening kid and relax or it could give you stomach problems. Naruto snorts and said, Like I need any more of those. Sume thought. So he knows. And said, Well, it doesn't matter kid. The only Inazakus in the village are me, Kiba, and my daughter Hana, and you've never crossed us in any way, so if you want to come by sometime I could tell you stories about your mom and me. Naruto looked at her and asked, Are you sure? I mean, most animals don't seem to like me. Hell, even Akamaru was a little afraid of me at first, and I don't want to cause any trouble. Sume said, It's no trouble, and I guess you could say the reason animals are a little afraid of you is they can tell you're an alpha. Naruto looked confused and Kiba asked, An alpha? Him? Are you sure about that, mom? As he looked at Naruto. Sume said, Yeah. Mark my words, Kiba. Someday soon you will see your friend here go from being the runt of the litter to the big dog. So will you accept my offer to come by sometime? Naruto said. Sure. I don't know when because we start teams soon and Nissan is training me. Sume looked confused and said, Brother, you have a brother. Naruto said. Look at the time, I'm running late for training. It was a pleasure to meet you, Sume-sama. See y'all later, Kiba. As he turned and started to lightly jog toward the gate. As he neared the gate, a shout of, Die! Was heard, causing everyone to turn and see Mizuki, who had jumped into the air with a Fuma shuriken out and open, throwing it at Naruto, who had turned and was wide-eyed as he started to move when a kunai sailed through the air and landed directly in front of Naruto, and the next moment there was a yellow flash followed by the sound of metal cutting flesh and a puff of smoke. A shout of, Take this, Cha! Was heard as Hakura appeared above Mizuki, slamming her fist into his head, knocking him into the ground in a crater. As she landed on the ground, quickly ran over to Arashi, who looked like an older version of Naruto. When Hakura got beside Arashi, who was holding the Fuma shuriken in his hand as part of one of the blades had sliced through the genjutsu seal on his arm, and she said, Let me see your arm, Baka. As she grabbed his arm and her hand began to glow green. Arashi said, You okay, Naruto? Naruto, who was shocked, said, Yeah. Ni-san, are you okay? Arashi looked at Mizuki, who was now being held by a couple of Anbu, said, Yeah, just a scratch. Naruto saw the wound nearly gone and he asked, How did you do that, Ni-san? I mean, how did you appear and catch that Fuma shuriken, and why did Mizuki-sensei throw it at me, and who are you, lady? Arashi chuckled and said, Slow down and breath, bro. I'll answer your question in a minute. As he looked at the Sandame, who was frowning, and Arashi said loudly, Sorry about that, Hokage-sama, but I didn't have any other way to protect Naruto at the moment, and he didn't look like he would have got out of the way in time, so I had no choice but to use that. The Sandame said, You know that isn't the way to keep yourself hidden. How am I going to explain your appearance now and the fact you can do that jutsu? Arashi looked at Naruto and said in a quiet voice, You trust me, bro? Naruto nods and Arashi said loudly as he stood up, Then I guess it can't be helped. It was only a matter of time before people found out the firstborn son of the Yondaime Hokage returned to Konoha to check on his baby brother, causing everyone who was nearby to go wide-eyed as they look at Arashi, then at Naruto, and then at the Hokage monument. Sume frowned as she walked over and said, How is this possible? You and Naruto smell almost exactly alike. Who are you? Arashi said. I am Arashi Uzumaki Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, elder brother to Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. At that, several adults were turning pale as they looked at Naruto. The Sandame sighed as he rubbed his head and said, I'm getting too old for this. Arashi, Hakura, Naruto, why don't you come with me to my office so we can discuss what to do now that two of the village's S-rank secret just got blown to hell? Anbu, take Mizuki to Ibiki and find out why he attacked a ninja of Konoha, if he's still alive, as he saw the crater Mizuki was once in. Arashi said, Meet you there, Hokage-sama, as he placed his hand on Naruto's shoulder and left in a swirl of leaves, as did Hakura and the Sandame. Sume walked over to where the blood was on the ground from Arashi and she dipped her finger in it and sniffed her finger after a moment, and Kiba said, What is it, mom? Sume frowned and said, He's Naruto brother all right. And thought, he even has the scent of fox for some reason. Akamaru whimpered in Kiba jacket and Sume thought, another alpha. In the Hokage office, the Sandame had just put a silence seal up and he glared at Arashi, who said, Hey, I wasn't going to stand there and let him be attacked by Mizuki. I didn't see anyone else moving to help and I didn't have time to shushin in front of him and he was too far to use replacement on. He froze and would have died if I hadn't have used the Hiraishin. The Sandame said, I understand that, but did you have to reveal your real look and tell them your name? Hakura said, It wasn't his fault, sir. The seal is released by blood and the shuriken cut his arm right at the seal, not only destroying the seal but also releasing it. The Sandaime sighed and said, "What do we do now? I mean, it's only a matter of time before the council calls a meeting once they hear about this." Arashi said, "Well, how would you like to get control of the village back from the council and deal with Danzo, Kaharu, and Homaru?" Sarutobi asked, "What do you mean?" Arashi smirked and said, "Did you know that Konoha gets a check from the land of Whirlpool October 10th every year since the day Naruto was born?" Sarutobi said, "No, I did not know that. Are you sure?" Arashi said, "Yes. The check was supposed to be used to support Naruto buying him food, cloths, home, and luxuries for the entire year." Hakura said, "I never heard of this before, Arashi. Why would Whirlpool be sending a check here for Naruto?" Arashi said, "Because Kushina Uzumaki was in fact the last member of the royal family of Whirlpool and owns the land of Whirlpool and as her child." Naruto's eyes went wide and said, "I'm a prince." Arashi said, "Well, we are. Since I sort of became public knowledge, you're going to have to see me as your older brother the rest of our lives. Can't tell about the time travel or anything like that. I've got a cover story to explain about me. Anyways, Kaharu and Homaru have been signing off on the checks every year as the executors of the accounts." Sarutobi asked, "How much are the checks for?" Arashi shrugged and said, $500,000 a year every year for the last 14 years. Everyone's eyes were wide and Arashi said, "If you're willing to play a little hardball, I can cripple the council power and back them into a corner. Of course you would have to play peacekeeper and Naruto will have to act like he doesn't want to see any harm come to Konoha and act like he doesn't hate the people here for the way they treated him. If we play our cards right, I can get Naruto and me clan status. My children have advanced healing on a smaller scale then but still larger than normal people, so we can pass our healing abilities off as a bloodline." Hakura said, "Children," as she looked at him. Naruto asked, "Who are you? Are you from the future as well?" Hakura sighed and said, "Yes, but you should realize that just because I'm with Arashi doesn't mean the younger me will wind up with you. As such, I won't tell you who I am because it doesn't matter anymore and only the Sandaime, Arashi, and myself actually need to know. I'm Hakura and Arashi fiancé. Now what's this about children?" Arashi rubbed the back of his head and said, Can we discuss that privately? It's not that I am ashamed of it or anything, but there is a chance Naruto might someday do the same thing I did, and if so, I don't want him to already know ahead of time how things would end up. I'll tell you later, but I had a total of 4 children. A daughter and 3 sons, but since we travel in time, if asked, I'll say they were killed by my enemies in the land of water, which is why I wanted to come here." Sarutobi said, "Very well." Hakura frowned and said, "You are telling me about this when? Wait, your daughter isn't with who I think it is? A certain helping with future generations." Arashi said, "Yes, my oldest was where I made a vow on a grave from the client's daughter, and the other 2 were when a picture of me and the client was took when I was in the hospital when I made the 7-color Rasengan." Hakura's eyes went wide and said, "Holy shit. You were with those 3? When? How? Never mind. We will discuss it later. Were you ever going to tell me?" Arashi said, "Remember who was after me all the time? Only the mothers and me knew I was the father, and it was too dangerous for me to be there for my kids because think of who we had to fight all the time after I came back. That was the real reason I didn't get much done during those 3 years." Hakura frowned and said, "All right, let's get back to the subject at hand." Naruto said, "Hey Ni-san, I just noticed something. What happened to your whiskers?" Arashi said, "I have a second seal on me that will hide the seal on my stomach and the whiskers on my face if the seal on my arm shut off without my chakra canceling it, so it's still active. I'll just redesign the first one later and make it look like I do now, so if one fails I still have the backup ready. So anyways, Gigi, do you want to play my idea? In the end, if things work out, then Kaharu and Homaru will either trip up and admit to funding route which will allow you to arrest Danzo, or they will show they are unable to do their jobs correctly and be forced to retire as your advisors. Since the council can't elect your advisors, only the Hokage, that will allow you to let Shikaku be your external advisor and possibly Ibiki as your internal advisors, since they both have the most contact with either sources as to what's going on outside and inside of the village." Sarutobi thought a moment and said, I would like Ibiki to be, but he is too important elsewhere, but I do have another in mind for the internal. I agree with Shikaku though, so what do you plan? Arashi smirked and Sarutobi and Hakura paled and Arashi said, imagine what kind of nightmare it would bring the people of Konoha when they learn the son of the so-called greatest Hokage who happens to know both his father's jutsu has no problem with joining Iwa to get revenge on Konoha for the way they treated his little brother and turned their backs on his father's last request. Sarutobi said, you're not actually planning that, are you? Arashi said, no. I made my peace years ago, and as long as more shit like what happened with Mizuki today doesn't happen, then it's fine, but I will protect my family if push comes to shove. Also, we should act like I only got back this week and that I met my brother and he told me all about his life, since I will list certain things I don't like about the way he's treated. Sarutobi said, very well. I will send a message to the council to gather. So how was things at the hospital, Hakura? Hakura said, fine, sir. The head of the hospital doubted my skills until I cured Hyatt of his cough and did several back-to-back emergency when a Black Ops team returned with wounded. He's got no doubts about my skills now. Hyatt will be coming to see you if he hasn't already to inform you he needs to be off duty the next 2 weeks due to him being under a quarantine. Sarutobi said, quarantine? Why? Hakura said, he had oxypolyps in his lunges. It's a poison that is common in the land of water. They multiply when they come in contact with air, so when they get in a person lunges they multiply, making it harder for the victim to breathe. Because they multiply in air, if come in contact with water they die, so to cure him I gave him pneumonia. That virus will settle in his lunges gathering water, which will kill the polyps and then can be treated with antibiotics and rest, and any doctor can come in after he's over it and heal the damage that has been done to his lunges with a simple procedure. Sarutobi said, I see. I take it he has some kind of mask on to keep from passing the virus around, correct? Hakura said, yes, sir. Sarutobi said, good. Hyatt is a good man and has been plagued by that condition for over 3 years now. None of the doctors here could properly identify it to cure it. Well, by the time we get to the council chambers, the council should be ready. Naruto, you need to be quiet and show respect. Never mind, I forgot who I was talking to. Let's go. Naruto said, but you never summoned the council. Arashi said, he has a seal under the desk that sends a message to a couple of Anbu who notified the council. Dad created it. Naruto looked down and said, I wish I could have met him once. Arashi thought, I pray that day never comes. As they were walking toward the council chambers, Naruto said, hey Ni-san, I got a question that's been bugging me since earlier. Arashi asked, what is it? I can't promise I know the answer or will answer, but I might. Naruto said, well, when I met Kiba mom earlier and she told me that her and mom were on the same team together, I noticed something strange. Hakura asked, what do you mean strange? Naruto said, well, she had this funny smell to her. It was sweet and something else. I don't really know how to explain it. Arashi sighed and stopped walking and said, I understand. Naruto, I could give you a long explanation about it, but I will simplify it since we are in a hurry. What you smelt was Sum being in heat because she's needing an alpha male to help her with her condition, and since Kiba dad died she doesn't have one that I am aware of. It is something you should not speak about to others for her privacy, because I don't know how embarrassing it is for her. I'll ask Hakura to help me explain it to you better when we have more time, but does that answer your question for now? Naruto said, yes, with a smile on his face as the group continued on its way. When they got to the council chambers, the Sandaime opened the door as the other 3 followed him in, and Hakura grabbed Naruto's hand and pulled him back over to the side by the door and thought, this is strange, here I am protecting Naruto from the world when it's usually was him protecting me. Arashi had a scowl on his face and his arms crossed as Sarutobi sat down, and he said, thank you all for coming, and I am sure some of you have already seen or heard about what happened earlier today. A chunin by the name of Mizuki tried to kill a newly graduated academy student, and he was saved by the gentleman in front of us. Kaharu said, yes, word has been spreading around the town about the son of the Yondaime and about Uzumaki. Arashi said, please refer to him by his proper name of Namikaze before I decide to say you all and take my brother with me and join Iwa instead of living here, causing everyone in the room to look at him. Sarutobi said, please calm down Arashi, I know you are upset with the way the village has dishonored your father's last request and the treatment of your little brother, but I do not believe drastic actions like that will be required. I am sure we can settle this peacefully. Arashi said. Before we begin, is those two fossil right there, Kaharu and Homaru? Both elders glared at him and Homaru said, we are the elders of Konoha and you will show us respect. Arashi said. And I am the prince of Whirlpool Country and first in line for the throne of that country, and you both are on trial for crimes against my country and family. Causing both elders to pale, and Sarutobi asked, what do you mean, Arashi? Arashi said. Every year since my mother passed away, Konoha has received a check from the country of Whirlpool for $500,000 every year for the past 14 years, which Kaharu and Homaru have been signing off on when they received the check, which was supposed to be used to provide my little brother with a home, food, shelter, clothing, teachers, guards for his protection, and any other expense he needs. Not only have I found out since I've been here that not one penny of that money been used on him, but this village has dishonored not only the memory of our parents but also the alliance that Konoha has with Whirlpool Country. Now, before we go on to any other subject, I demand an accounting of where the use of that money has been going, since it has not reached my brother, and don't try to claim it has, as the apartment he lives as was given to him and furnished by his godfather Jiraiya, who owns the Bewheeling, and the $1,000 a month he had for living expenses was also sent by Jiraiya to help care for him while his duties took him from Konoha. All the furniture in his home was the same furniture Jiraiya bought when he gave him the apartment at the age of 5, and Naruto lived with the Sarutobi until the age of 2 when he was placed in the orphanage. You can try and claim that money was spent on him that 3 years, but I've already been informed that all the children at the orphanage only had 2 outfits each and they shared the same food, so that means it was provided by the orphanage funding and not the money Whirlpool has been sending. Now where is the money? As he unleashed enough ki to make the council gasp and the clans to sweat. Kaharu and Homaru looked at each other and Homaru said, it was stolen. Arashi gives a sick laugh as he wipes a fake tear from his eye and said, let me get this straight, that much money has been stolen by a member of this council, and yes, I can prove it was a member of this council, since not even the Hokage knew about that money, means only those you both told have knowledge of it, for 14 years straight, and you have never once revealed the fact to the Hokage. Why don't you tell me another lie? I know exactly where the money has gone, as I had the money traced the last time around. A civilian asked. If you know where it has gone, then why are you demanding the elders to tell where it is? Arashi said. To show how incompetent the elders are. They have been paying Danzo here that money to pay for his secret root program that the Sandaime Hokage ordered disbanded, and don't you dare try using that stolen Sharingan eye on me, Danzo. Causing everyone in the room to go wide-eyed. Danzo said. What are you talking about? Arashi said. You might as well forget trying to leave here, Danzo. I created a couple of Kajbunshin on the way here, and they have sealed off this room where no one can enter or leave, and also no one besides me and my fiancé will be able to use chakra. Now why don't you tell everyone here about the 3 Sharingan eyes and the arm you had Orochimaru create for you with the genes of the Sandaime Hokage in them, or the Sharingan eye you have behind your bandages? Note. I don't remember which eye and arm Danzo doesn't have, so I am putting it down as his right arm. Danzo, who had jumped to his feet, tried to shushan away, and the next moment Arashi was beside him with his fist in Danzo gut, and Danzo began to scream as his right arm was cut off from his body by wind chakra. Arashi reached into Danzo's right eye socket and pulled out the Sharingan eye and showed it to everyone in the room, who were looking sick, and he then removed the cloths and removed the guards showing the Sharingan eyes, and he threw Danzo into the middle of the room where Haruka was, and she hit a pressure point knocking him out and quickly stopped the bleeding. Arashi said. In case you don't realize it, the only way for Danzo to have these eyes is if he stole them from the bodies of the Uchiha clan within a few minutes of death, meaning he knew Itachi was going to kill them and had his men ready to steal them. That also means he let Sasuke be tortured by Itachi and left him there after his men took the eyes until he was found by loyal Konoha shinobi. Now that this piece of trash has been exposed, I want to know how Konoha plans to repay Whirlpool Country and my family for the crimes it has committed. I doubt that there is any way that the funds could be completely replaced. Sarutobi frowned and said, was it necessary to do that, Arashi? Arashi said. He tried to use the Sharingan eye on me. I am a sensor type and can detect chakra signatures and usage. Bloodlines have different feelings each, and I recognized the Sharingan and the Mokuden bloodline in that arm and under his bandages, and it was simple for me to detect him trying to mold chakra into that eye as well. Also, there are two root members knocked out in the room behind the wall behind where Danzo was sitting. One is a member of the Aburame clan and another is a member of the Yamanaka clan. The Yamanaka is currently trapped in the body of that citizen right now since he can't be released, and when he runs out of chakra he will die. As he pointed to a civilian council member. Inoichi glared at the council member and said, "Who are you?" A swirl of leaves appeared in the room and a Kajbunshin of Arashi appeared with two bodies, and Inoichi said, "You're supposed to be dead." The civilian said, "No, I only faked my death to serve the true leader of Konoha." Shibi, who had a bug fly back into his coat, said, "I see, it appears as if I have a council member to punish later. I thank you for bringing this matter to our attention, Namikaze-sama." After his Kajbunshin tied up both men, Arashi said, "The seals are down so you can call for Anbu to deal with them, Hokage-sama. You can try to have me arrested if you want, but I only did what I had to in self-defense because the hypnotic effect of the Sharingan is well known and he could have used that eye on any person here, including me, to save himself and cause harm to innocents. I did not know about his eye or arm until I arrived here. I don't know if you value my word much or not, but I would reopen an investigation into the Uchiha massacre, because if Danzo knew about it and was able to get those eyes, then I could come up with several scenarios, like Root aided in the destruction of the Uchiha clan, or that it was totally Root and Itachi took the blame so his brother would not find out about Danzo and be killed for it, as well as several other scenarios." Inoichi said, "How can you be sure that it was Orochimaru who grew that arm?" Arashi said, "Orochimaru is known for his experimenting of children trying to recreate the Mokuden bloodline as one of the reason he left here. I figure he would be the most likely subject, and since Orochimaru wants to learn all the jutsu in the world, the Sharingan would be a great gift. I figure Danzo offered him Sasuke eyes as part of the deal." Shikaku asked, "Why would he offer Sasuke eyes and not one he took during the massacre?" Arashi said, "If you transplanted an eye like the Sharingan, how long would it take you to figure out how to use it correctly and all the secrets behind it? Danzo would have kept all the eyes he took at the time for himself and his root and promised Sasuke to Orochimaru, because Sasuke would first have to activate them and then they would have to wait until they were actually big enough to transplant for an adult. This gives Danzo years to prepare in case Orochimaru tried to double-cross him, and Danzo could request further aid on other things that he can't have done here." Shibi said, "I cannot find a flaw in your logic. I would request an investigation into the massacre as well, Hokage-sama. The idea of one person killing the entire clan of the Uchiha is hard to believe, but a squad of Anbu-like Root would be more logical. Perhaps it will allow closure for young Sasuke." Sarutobi said, "I will look into it later. Anbu, take Danzo into custody as well as those two men and have Ibiki put them in a room with chakra restriction seals." The Anbu team who had arrived nods and quickly grabbed the three and left. Sarutobi looked at Naruto and Arashi followed his eyes and saw Naruto shaken up, and Arashi said, "Naruto, I'm sorry about that, but you have to realize if you wish to be a shinobi that scenes like what you just saw will be common. In the land of water the graduation test isn't like it is here. There they have to live, eat, and sleep with your fellow classmates until the day at graduation where you are forced to fight your own friends and classmates to the death to graduate. That would have been the way things here in Konoha would have turned out had Madara not lost to Hashirama Senju for the position of the Shadaime. That program in the land of water was created by the Sandaime Mizukage Madara Uchiha, causing everyone in the room to look at him wide-eyed. Hiyashi said, "That's impossible, Madara died fighting the Shadaime Hokage." Arashi said, "Sorry, he's still alive. When he replaced his blind Magnekyu Sharingan eyes with that of his brothers, he gained a new Sharingan called the Eternal Sharingan that grants the user the eternal youth where they quit aging. That's probably why Itachi left Sasuke alive if he really did kill the Uchiha clan. Anyways, Madara faked his death and went to the land of water since that was where the Senju clan was originally from, and started the bloodline civil war and the Academy final test after he fought the Nadaime Mizukage for the title of Mizukage and won. He did it to eliminate all the bloodlines that could oppose the Sharingan and to weaken the land of water so they would not have as many jutsu that could fight the Uchiha specialty, which are fire jutsu. Since he's alive and history books tell how he summoned the Kyuubi to fight the Shadaime Hokage, it's easy to figure out what happened 14 years ago. A civilian said. Then we should declare war on the Hidden Mist village. Arashi unleashed his ki, stopping the shouting in the room, and said, Madara has left the land of water, and I am not sure if the Yondaime Mizukage is still in control or has been replaced. Suum asked. How do you know so much about the land of water? Arashi said. After I was born, my parents, in fear of me being killed by their enemies, sent me to a trusted friend who I was entrusted with. They moved to the land of water after mother and father had been killed, and we believed Naruto had passed away also at the time, and I was raised there and had a family until my bloodline was discovered and my children were killed. After that I helped a few people with bloodlines to escape the land of water, and I met Hakura, who was an apprentice to a medic who saved my life once, and Hakura and I left the land of water and we recently came to Konoha to start a new life, and I discovered my brother was still alive. Suum said. Bloodline. I didn't know either of your parents had a bloodline. What is it? Arashi said. Regeneration. I heal faster than a regular person is supposed to. That cut I received earlier would normally heal in a few minutes normally, but Hakura is worried about me since I was poisoned by a mercenary on the way here, and she has yet to figure out a cure to completely heal me. I didn't know it was a bloodline either, and wouldn't have if my children didn't have it also. A civilian said. You should start a clan here in Konoha where your family belongs. Arashi said. Oh, why should I do that when you have tried every way possible to harm and kill my family just as the land of water did? Right now I see no difference between the two lands because you can't tell the difference between this. As he pulled out a scroll and opened it and unsealed a Hiraishin kunai, making everyone wide-eyed, and this. This kunai I can see makes you all a little worried because I can use the Hiraishin. It can cause the deaths of all my enemies just like the Kyuubi could. Naruto and this scroll are the same, both protecting you from the danger that is sealed inside, and just like I had to have a reason to unseal the kunai to use it, Naruto needs a reason to unseal the Kyuubi to use its power. By treating him as you have, he has no reason to be loyal to this village and has every reason to want to see it destroyed so he could release the Kyuubi anytime he wants to destroy you, just like I could unseal all the Hiraishin kunais in this scroll to kill you. So what's the difference between us and any other ninja? At this moment I have no loyalty to anyone in this village besides my little brother, my fiancé, and the Sandaime for protecting my brother. My brother has loyalty to only the Sandaime for being like a grandfather to him, and I think the two at the ramen stand he told me about. In a village of over several thousand people, that is not a lot of loyalty and could become even less with actions like Mizuki today. With an evil grin. Naruto said. Ni-san, stop. I don't want to see you threatening these people. I want to earn their respect and become Hokage like Dad someday. I'll prove to them I'm not the Kyuubi somehow. Arashi frowned and said. Are you sure? Naruto said. Yeah, I care for Konoha. Even the simple-minded idiots who can't tell me apart from the Kyuubi. Causing several to glare at him. Arashi frowned before he closed his eyes and said, all right. You wipes say we should start a clan here in Konoha. I already know what you're thinking. Get me to agree and then treat me special, and when my little brother is with me treat him special, and then when he's not you can treat him like shit or try and kill him. You're also thinking you could try and force me into some kind of arranged marriages to get you political power and wealth and discard my brother, and don't try to deny it or I will cut out your eyes and shove them as your. I'm a very vindictive bastard who has been through probably as much if not more hell than my brother, and I have no problem killing anyone who tries to harm my family. I will kill you, your families, your pets, your neighbor, their family and pets, burn your houses and piss on the flames before shitting on the ashes if you with my family. I will marry only my fiancée Haruka and only her, and if we decide to have a child so be it, but if not then it's not my problem. You want a clan with healing abilities, then my little brother is the one you're going to have to suck to. No, there will not be any arranged marriages, but he will fall under the Clan Restoration Act so he can marry as many women as he wants. Also, as I said, I am a vindictive asshole, so I'm pretty much going to screw you over with the way you treat my brother. Since he hasn't passed the real genin test yet, if we left he can't be called a missing nin and can go wherever he wants, and any harm comes to any member of my family and well. I'll make Kyuubi look like an angel. You want us here, Konoha going to have to agree to several things. If not, Well, when word spreads to all the feudal lords and other hidden villages about how Konoha treats not only royalty but the son of their cage and the way they steal from their allies and rob the graves of their own, I don't think you will be able to keep your good guy reputation anymore, which will most likely destroy your village. Inoichi asked. And if we were stop you and arrest you, how would they find out? Arashi smirked and said, do you think I am some snot-nosed brat who shoots his mouth off without a plan? I created Kajbunshin when I was with the Sandame walking here and he never even detected me using them. You don't know how many I have, but you know it had to be at least 4 to seal off this room like I did earlier, and only 1 is here. You also don't know if I made arrangements with someone else with the information I had decided to question about, like the money. You also know from experience that most of you in this room can't keep your mouth shut with secrets or juicy gossip like the elders' involvement or Danzo crimes. Some of the council would try to gain support quickly to become the new advisor or the head of the civilian council like Danzo. Sarutobi said. Enough, Arashi. What is it you want? In a tired voice. Arashi said. Well, the way I see it, we have several ways we can work this. The 2 fossils up there have to make a choice no matter what. Their career as the elders of Konoha are over. They either get to honorably retire with a few stipulations saving Konoha its honor, or they can be publicly executed while Konoha and their family's name are shunned by everyone for their crimes. I will remind you of the Hitaki clan as a reference, elders. Even performing ritual suicide will not save your family shame and your grandchildren being scorned like Hitaki Kakashi was as a child. Kaharu frowned and said, what is your demands? Arashi said. I am giving you the benefit of the doubt and think that Danzo used his Sharinganai on you the last few years, but before that we know you were guilty, and I will give you the benefit of doubt that you did what you thought was best for Konoha, but you were both ups. I doubt that any of the money sent here is still around, but if any of it is, I want it returned to my family. I also want you both to spend time with Ibiki, telling him everything that you have done since the Kyuubi attack, everything you know about Root, or the founders as they call themselves. You will have your chakra sealed off, but only Ibiki, the Hokage, and whoever the Hokage selects as his 2 advisors will know the full details of what you both have done. You will be restricted to the village for the rest of your days, and you will both have to do community service once a month at the academy, where you will talk to the students about not only the politics of the village but also tell them stories about any hard missions with a little actual death as possible to teach them death as a part of being shinobi, and there are hard times as well in not saving princess and saving countries from evil dictators. Hakura snickers at this, making everyone look at her, and she waved her hands in embarrassment and thought, 90% of our missions were those types of missions. Arashi said. Anyway, you will both have to explain the politics of Konoha to Naruto in full detail and answer his questions on them as best as you can. Our parents were not here to give him lessons in politics, and you stole the money that was to pay tutors for him to learn those lessons so you can be his tutors in that. Even if he never makes Hokage as he dreams, he still may someday have to deal with politics, dealing with either clients for Konoha, which could cause a war if he said the wrong thing, or as the Prince of Whirlpool. In return, I will ask the Hokage to make an S-class law that no one is to speak about your crimes of stealing money or the crimes that you confess to Ibiki. Anyone who does will lose their seat on the council permanently and serve as a personal servant to you both for 1 year. A civilian said. You can't do that. Arashi said. Actually, since my family was the one wrong, I get a voice on their punishment, and since Kaharu and Homaru were the Sandame old teammates, he would not want to see them go down in flames of public execution, so I am sure he would be more than willing to honor my request in this matter, and I could ask him to do that, or public execution of the one who speaks out about it for treason to Konoha, and your family will be fined as well as put under suspicion for being traitors to Konoha, where Anbu will make inspections of their home and watch every moment of their private time. Do you want an Anbu to watch your wives or daughters bath looking to see if they're traitors? Sume thought. Vindictive indeed. You are definitely Kushina's son. As she smirked behind her hands. Homaru said. Is that all? Arashi said. No, since I figure Danzo will be killed for his crimes. After he is dead, you are both to speak with Sasuke Uchiha about Danzo involvement in the Uchiha massacre based on what the investigation the Hokage comes up with thanks to this new information, and we will say he used the Sharingan on you to force you to help cover it up. You will have a guard the Hokage will assign for the meeting in case he acts before he thinks and tries to kill you, but once it is completely explained, he will have no choice but to see the truth. You're doing this because I fear that Madara may know about the truth of Danzo's involvement about the massacre and will try to persuade Sasuke at some point to join him in his quest for revenge against Konoha, since history books tell us Madara wishes to see Konoha destroyed. With you both being either willing or unwilling accessories to the Uchiha massacre, since Danzo had to use you both to be able to keep his upgrades a secret so long, Madara may tell Sasuke some kind of half-truth half-lie that you both and Danzo ordered the Uchiha massacre because the people of Konoha blamed them for the Kyuubi attacking and they were planning a coup. People did blame the Uchiha clan some, and with you both possibly being under Danzo control and Danzo being able to steal the Sharingan means he knew about it, that means that he can claim Konoha ordered the Uchiha clan massacre, and Sasuke already mentally unstable thanks to Itachi jutsu on him, and Konoha could lose the Sharingan forever and gain an enemy out of all the Uchiha clan members, and it will make Konoha look weak if they attacked other villages since Konoha hasn't cleaned up their mess. By telling Sasuke the truth, and should there be doubt of Itachi guilt, we might be able to change Sasuke's need for revenge, and then there is also a chance that if Itachi is found not guilty and can be captured alive, which is possible with him going blind, we might be able to have him serve jail time for his crimes after then and becoming a missing nin to save his brother's life if he was innocent, and he could be used to help restart the Uchiha clan faster than Sasuke could on his own. Shikaku asked, "How do you know Itachi is going blind?" Arashi said, "He has the Mangekyou Sharingan and used it at least once on his brother when he claimed he killed the Uchiha clan by himself. Every time an Uchiha uses it, the blood in their eye boils and slowly makes them go blind, which is why Madara Uchiha had to take his brother's eyes." A civilian asked, "What exactly is the Mangekyou Sharingan?" Arashi said, "Due to the nature of that Sharingan, I will not tell the details to civilians and will only tell the shinobi and clan heads with permission from the Hokage due to it being an Uchiha clan secret. I probably know more than anyone outside of the Uchiha clan about the history of the Sharingan, including its origins as well as the origins of the Senju clan bloodline, which is why I know their clan secret." Kaharu saw Sarutobi nod slightly out of the corner of her eye and said, "Based on what information Sarutobi investigation find is what we would tell young Sasuke, correct?" Arashi locked eyes with both elders and gave them both a look that asked, "Are you stupid enough to tell the real truth?" And said, "Yes, there is also one other thing that I want. Since the civilian council members are elected by the elders, and since not only has your judgment and also the possibility of Danzo involvement in the election of the civilian council members, once the new advisors have been elected, the one elected over internal affairs will interview and determine if all the civilian council members are qualified and actually needed for the council business." Several shouts went up against this, and Arashi let loose his ki again, silencing them, and Arashi said, "I know for a fact that at least one of you has no reason to be in this meeting at all. That lady right there is the director of the public library. She has no clan, no other business, no ninja training. She is only in the library a few hours a week and her assistants do all the work there. She has no political knowledge or economic knowledge. All that is needed from her is to fill out a simple piece of paper that tells how much is paid to employees at the library a week, what new books come in, what expenses the library had that week, and request for any books or material for upgrades or areas that might be restricted. So why is she being paid as a council member or get a vote in the important decisions of the village when she is not qualified to do so? All she has to do is deliver a letter to the internal advisor once a week and go back to her library. There are several other members here on the council who are similar to her, who are wasting Konoha funding, the council time, and the Hokage time that could be used for important matters. Now the question is how she got on the council and why she is here. I have my suspicions and I can confirm or deny those in a moment. Miss, I am sorry for putting you on the spot, and I can tell you are a civilian since your chakra reserves are so small, but please stick out your tongue," causing everyone but Hakura to look confused. The woman said, "What? Why are you asking me to do that?" Arashi said, "Hokage-sama, Danzo is so paranoid that he has any member of the founders, or root as they are called, have a seal placed on their tongue so that if they are captured they can't speak about him or what he has them doing. I am asking this lady who has no way to get on the council in the first place unless she was placed here by Danzo to add a vote in his favor. Will you please ask her to see if she is a member of the founders as they call themselves?" Sarutobi said, "It's on all his members." Arashi said, "That's what I've been told. It's a real easy way for you to find those in your ranks who work for him." Sarutobi said, "I see. Please show us your tongue, Hiko. The woman frowned and stuck out her tongue, and several people's eyes widened, and Sarutobi said, "Is that the seal?" Arashi said, "Yes. She's a member of the founders. If the rest of you civilians will kindly show us your tongues, we can continue on to my demand about joining Konoha. So far all we covered is what it will take for us not to tell everyone about crimes committed against my family." The Sandaime looked at them and said, "Do it." As he summoned Anbu. One by one they all stuck out their tongue, with 7 more people having the seal on their tongues. After the Hokage had Anbu take all 8 of them away, he sighed and said, "Shikaku, you are Harbi, my new advisor on external matters." Shikaku said, "Troublesome." The Sandaime moved his hands from his eyes and glared at Arashi and said, "This meeting is going too long and too many events are happening for my taste, so tell us what you want to join Konoha." Arashi said, "Clan status with me as the head, a seat on the council. I will be put down as a Junin on the reserve list like each of the other clan heads, with no question about what my abilities are, because I do not want my family enemies to figure out all my skills. We will not be taking the Namikaze name because that will spark a war with the other nations, so the clan name will be Uzumaki. I want you to make a replacement copy of my birth certificate showing my birthday as October 10th 4x, exactly 3 years before my brothers. You will inform Whirlpool Country Feudal Lord that as I am legally taking over as the executor of my family account, and if they wish more info they will come see me. I want a piece of land paid for by Danzo or the elders, I don't care which. I would prefer the land behind the Hokage monument by Jiraiya property, but as long as it's not near the actual villagers, so my family and future family can practice our clan jutsu without going to the training grounds or being spied on. Also, I want a clan house built for us as quickly as possible. Nothing too fancy, but at least enough where we can grow in case my brother decides to get a huge harem for himself someday, and I believe we both want to live a simple life. I'll worry about security and privacy myself. Now this part is non-negotiable. My brother is only allowed in a few places, and I know they will allow me in and him when I am with him, but I don't want to have to escort him everywhere because of idiots, so here's the deal. I don't want to be treated special, and neither does my family. But we also don't want to be treated like shit. I know businesses have the right to refuse service to anyone they want, but if they refuse service to one member of a clan, from now on they are refusing service to every clan, causing the clan heads' eyes to go wide as the civilian council paled. Arashi smirked as the shouts went throughout the room, and he put his hands behind his head, and it took the Sandaime several minutes to restore order. When it was over, the Sandaime said, "Arashi, I can't allow that." Arashi said, "So Konoha is following in the footsteps of the Bloody Mist. I wonder how the Bloody Leaf will sound in a few years when Konoha has its own bloodline civil war," as he looked at the roof with a smile on his face. At this everyone seemed confused, and Sarutobi said, "We're not like the Hidden Mist, Arashi." Arashi said, "You are following the same steps Madara Uchiha used to start the civil war in the Land of Water. He gave one clan special treatment different from the others while giving another clan treatment like my brother has gone through. Konoha is doing the same thing with Sasuke. I've seen store owners giving him discounts, free samples, buying his meal for him, just generally kissing his, and then you got clans like that Genjutsu clan whose heiress once trained under Kurenai Uehi. That clan isn't even allowed in the village without a guard, and when they get missions they are sent by messenger bird to them. The law I am wanting to go into effect will not only affect my clan but every clan of Konoha. By everyone agreeing to what I am asking for, then store owners will be forced to stop giving Sasuke all these free things and lower priced things because they would be required to do it to every clan, which would break them. Once Sasuke see he can't just walk over everyone because he's an Uchiha, he will be forced to lose some of his arrogance. Right now, if we were having the Chunin exam, Sasuke match could be postponed for several hours if he didn't show up on time because everyone is giving him special treatment because he's the last Uchiha, but if any other heir or heiress were to be late for their match, then they would be disqualified. Why should he get special treatment when none of the others are? That is showing all the other clans that you care more for the Uchiha clan than you do for them, which will make them doubt Konoha, which will raise tension between them and others in Konoha until someone reaches a breaking point or someone does something stupid, and soon the entire village is in the middle of a civil war. Silence went through the room, and Arashi said, "Like I mentioned earlier, as Konoha is right now, I see no difference between it and the Hidden Mist. You want to argue with me over asking for the same treatment that other clans would receive for all my members. Look at the Hyuga clan. They pride themselves on their bloodline and that little seal they give to the branch members when right now I can think of 60 different ways including the way that has already worked to steal their bloodline. As he looked at Hiyashi. Hiyashi asked, "What do you mean has already worked?" Arashi said, "A couple of years ago a branch member of the Hyuga clan was captured alive by the Hidden Mist village. Both his eyes were transplanted and I figure there are probably about 10 or so kids in the academy there with your eyes and all it took was a $3.50 can of paint thinner to get past the slavery seal, excuse me, cage bird seal you have on the branch members." Hiyashi frowned and said, "Paint thinner?" in a questioning voice. Arashi said, "A canteen of water mixed with paint thinner, using a Mizubunshin no jutsu to run at the Hyuga when he attacks the clone the water and the thinner gets on his clothes and the vapors take a few seconds to catch his attention and by the time he realizes something wrong since he will be more worried about the guy who made the Mizubunshin, he's on the brink of passing out from the fumes. Another way is to take a can of paint thinner and put it in a metal barrel and hook a water hose up to it and slip the hose under the door to the hotel room he's in and let the fumes make sure he won't be waking up for a few hours. Those are just the way civilians or GENNINs can capture your beady little eyes and sell them to the rakeage or anyone else. I can think of 58 other ways without really trying because you believe that all you need is your family jutsu and your bloodline. By thinking this you are hindering you clan's true potential and also dishonoring yourself. Your arrogance is your downfall. Besides, the main branch is to free to use the cage bird seal on the branch members. I mean from right here all I have to do is put my hands in this seal and send out a chakra pulse and kill or cripple every branch member in the village. Hiyashi who was pale looked at Arashi and said, "How do you know that seal?" Arashi said, "I saw a main branch member threatening to use it on a branch member if they didn't do as ordered in public. Personally if I was you, I would use the legal loophole you have to screw over your clan council and free your clan, especially after your brother's sacrifice." Hiyashi said, "What loophole?" Arashi said, "The one that was agreed on when the Hyuga clan joined Konoha. The one that said should another seal or a modification to the cage bird seal be discovered where it removed the punishment part of the seal the Hyuga clan would be forced to accept the new seal putting it on all members or lose the right to put any seal on any members. Should the Hyuga main branch refuse to obey the agreement then it will show they do intend to have the branch members as slave and the main branch would hardly be kicked out of Konoha and the fire country while the seal would be removed from the branch members and should any main branch member try to activate the seal once the law has begun they will be immediately killed by ninja of Konoha. To put it simply, all you have to do is make a request as the head of your clan to Jiraiya or anyone else who could either create a new seal or modify the cage bird seal and once it's done have the Hokage come with you along with any security he feels is necessary to oversee the laws that your clan agreed to were followed through on. What? At one time I had the same dream as my little brother and I studied the history and laws of Konoha as best as I could." As he saw the shocked looks on everyone's face. Hiyashi said, "But who could I ask without my clan council finding out?" Arashi began to whistle as he pulled out a scroll and began to draw on it catching everyone's attention and after a few seconds he sat up straight rolling up the scroll as he tossed the scroll in the air and Hiyashi said, "What are you doing?" Arashi asked, "Oh, you wish to see what I was working on? Are you asking to see it?" With a smirk. Hiyashi's eyes slightly widened understanding what Arashi was saying and he said, "Yes, I would like to see your work." Arashi said, "That takes care of any loopholes your clan council might try, catch," as he tossed the scroll to Hiyashi. Hiyashi blinked and opened the scroll and his eyes went wide and Arashi said, "I got a look at the cage bird seal before so I figured out its basic functions and figured out how to modify it. Slavery, rapist, and child abusers are 3 of my pet peeves. If you want you can have Jiraiya go over it once he returns to give his updates to the Hokage and see if what I claim is true about the seal and he might be able to come up with an even better version or a better seal altogether. I've got another one I believe would work even better than that one though. It's the same one I put on my kids to protect their bloodline once I found out they had it." Hiyashi looked at the scroll and after a moment asked, "What is the other one you speak about?" Arashi said, "It's built off the basics of a blood seal. You would take the blood of a Hyuga and an animal's blood that would be a secret to your clan which animal and mix the 2 bloods together in the sealing ink so that way the seal can't be modified unless they had not only the blood of a Hyuga but also the same animal as you used. Then all you have to do is draw the containment seal around your eyes for the blood seal, which would be on the back of their neck. If the eyes are then removed from the containment seal, the seal would cause the eyes to be destroyed, so you can't transplant them even to another hyuga, even if they are alive, as long as the seal is active. And like I said, you would need the blood of a hyuga and an animal. I actually used 5 animals on the one I used on my kids for their safety. Hiyashi thought a moment and looked at the seal in his hand and said, "How long would it take you to draw up that seal?" Arashi said, "A week. The seal's not that difficult to draw, but since it's going to your clan, I fear your council will have someone try to figure out a way to give them back the subjection part of the seal, so I want to draw a genjutsu seal to make it where it hides the seal so no one will be able to see it once it's been applied, and also I want to add a modifier restrictor seal to it where if anyone tries to modify the design, it will simply seal off the bloodline permanently of the person it was being applied to. I've created over a dozen trap seals of my own design to cancel out altering a seal from its original design that I plan to add to your seal, so that way there will never be a slave branch to your clan." Hiyashi was shocked and said, "And you as the creator of the seal could not modify it?" Arashi said, "Only if I knew which animals and how many animals' blood were used in the sealing process, and also knew where you put the actual seal. The containment seal would be around the eyes, but the actual seal could be drawn anywhere as long as the contact lines are drawn from the containment seal to it, and since the genjutsu seal would be up unless I knew where the actual seal would be at and the exact placement, then once it's on a person it's nearly impossible to change it." Hiyashi asked, "Nearly?" Arashi said, "The seal is only as good as the person putting it on keeps it a secret. I figure you could knock out the person you're putting it on so they don't know where it is, but the person actually putting it on would know, and anyone awake in the room would know. If those people told, then it might be possible to someday break my seal, but as long as you kept the secrets, then it should be safe. As a precaution, as clan head, you could get the animal blood yourself, so only you and the next clan head would know what blood is required to even attempt to mess with it, and give it to your sealing person, so even if one secret is exposed on where it is located, the secret of what blood is required is still safe." Hiyashi shook his head and said, "I only wish you would have come around years earlier. Please draw up that seal for me, and when it is done, please join Hokage-sama and 4 team of Anbu with me to free my clan. With that law, even if my council finds out about this, they can't stop the freedom of both houses." Arashi said, "Very well. I will begin work on it today." Hiyashi nods and soon asked, "How do you know so much about classified things and secrets like you do?" Arashi snorts and said, "If you're asking if I'm a spy, then no. You all live in a glass bubble you have built around you and do not know what is really going on in the world. Did you know that Orochimaru has started his own hidden village, causing everyone to go wide-eyed?" Arashi, seeing the shocked looks, said, "Yeep, I don't know exactly where it is, but I do know it is in Rice Field Country, and the village is called the Hidden Sound Village. Also, you may or may not have heard about the civil war going on in Rain Country. Well, it's over. Hanzo, the salamander, has been killed, and while I do know who the leader of that country is, I won't tell right now, because any Konoha nins who go there to try to gather information or to try and start relations with them will be killed on sight. You all have Danzo to thank for that, since he made a secret alliance with Hanzo a few years back and agreed to kill a group of resistant fighters who were trying to bring peace through negotiations to the land of rain, and in return for killing the leader, Hanzo would help to assassinate the Sandaime Hokage." Shikaku asked, "Are you sure about that?" Arashi said, "Yes, he was the one who took Danzo arm originally after Root killed his best friend when they came for a peace conference. He used his bloodline to consume the souls of over 200 of Danzo and Hanzo men that day. He is not a man to mess with, and I would make sure none of Konoha nins head to Rain Country, but enough about Rain Country. As I was saying, you don't know anything really living in your little bubble here. Did you know that Suna is on the brink of economical collapse right now, with the Wind Lord sending 90% of their missions to Konoha? They are having to cut back on their ninja forces while increasing their men's skills. Most of their genin now are mid-chunin when they go to the chunin exams. I wouldn't be surprised if they are willing to make alliances with other villages in hopes of keeping their village from being destroyed." Sarutobi said, "That can't be true. The Cage would have asked for aid." Arashi said, "What did I say a few minutes ago about arrogance? Pride is another form of arrogance, and the Cage is too prideful to admit that their village is almost ready to become a minor hidden village. Konoha has settled into the thinking that no news is good news and it's come back and bit them in the before, with Madara Uchiha being a prime example, and it's going to happen again. A civilian said. Then we should offer them aid. Arashi slapped his head and said, Kami, help me. If Konoha did that, he would send the Ikibi no Shikaku here and have it released inside the village for insulting him. The only way to help Suna without it seem like we are taking pity on them or giving them charity is to make it appear we have too many missions and not enough ninja to carry out some high profit missions. If we asked for aid from them to carry out some B in a rank missions or asked them to do joint missions, and it's not just Suna, Konoha needs to look at and worry about. There's a clan from Wood Country. The Hania clan, I believe. They tried to join Konoha and thought the Anbu who was delivering messages was working for the Hokage. They were root. Danzo had them offer some of their children to see if there would be any difficulties for the clan to settle in with the people of Konoha. After the children arrived here, he put them in the root program and sent his men back to the Hania clan and assassinated them. There are a few survivors here and there, but I don't know where. Planning revenge against Danzo and Konoha for betraying them, since Danzo is such an upstanding member of Konoha political and military strength. Sarutobi was livid at this point and he turned to the elders and demanded, Did you know about this? Both were wide-eyed and Kaharu said, I swear to you on the lives of my children and grandchildren we knew nothing of this. Sarutobi slammed his fist into the table in front of him and said, Inoichi, when this meeting is over, I want you to head to T&I and enter Danzo mind. I want you to find out everything he has been doing. I fear these are only a fraction of what he has done. Inoichi said, Yes, Hokage-sama. Sarutobi said, Good. Do you have any other demands to join Konoha Arashi besides wanting you and your family being treated as equals to all the clans, and if a business refuses service to you then they refuse service to all the clans in addition to wanting some land and a home? Arashi said, Word does not spread about us being royalty. All I want is a place where my family and I can call home without being treated as if we do not deserve to live because of who or what we are. I won't take missions outside of the village, but I am willing to defend the village if the need ever arises. I've seen too much blood for my taste already to seek it out. I also don't want any word to spread about what you have seen or heard I was able to do. No one knows what I can do, and those who have seen me in battle either are dead or know me wearing a mask and a disguise to hide my real identity, so if word spreads about my ability then word will spread about Konoha skeletons in their closets. These are not really demands but more of things that all humans have the rights to, no matter if they are clan members, bloodlines, royalty, peasant, civilians, shinobi, jinchuriki, male or female. Is that such a foreign concept to everyone here that my family and I only want the right to live our lives without being treated different? That I have to basically blackmail you into receiving those same rights for my brother and me? Konoha speaks about the will of fire, about teamwork, about those who don't follow the rules are trash, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. From what I have seen, this village has pissed on the will of fire, leaving nothing but black ash in its place. That working together for the betterment of your village only applies when you get something you want out of it. That following the rules only apply when it suits you. That loyalty to your village comrades and allies only matters when you're the one in need and not when they are. I look at Konoha and I have to ask one question. What is it about this village dad was so willing to die and seal the Kyuubi in my brother so he could protect Konoha in his place instead of taking him and leaving the village to be destroyed because of its own corruptions, arrogance, and stupidity? Can any one of you answer me that question? Arashi felt a hand on his shoulder and he saw Hakura with tears in her eyes and she asked, Is this what you've become? Arashi sighed as he closed his eyes and said, Everyone has a breaking point. I've had my best friend stab me through the chest with an assassination jutsu. I've seen friends die. I've seen darkness consuming the world because of the actions of those in charge. I've seen my family destroyed. Seeing him being dragged down the same path and knowing what is waiting him at the end of that path hurts more than my best friend betrayal. Knowing I have all this power at my fingertips and being unable to do anything more than give a few words of encouragement or advice. I'm tired, Hakura. I'm so very tired. But I still have to continue my destiny. So many people depend on me and so many have sacrificed for me. Do I even deserve peace or am I cursed to end up in hell? Chuckles. Perhaps he was right after all. We really can't fight our fates, can we? In a dead tired voice. Hakura grabbed him with both her hands and turned his face to hers and she said, "Look at me." I said, "Look at me," as she dropped the genjutsu seal on her, causing several to go wide-eyed. Hakura said, "Look back at your life. Look back at all you have done. Look back at all the people you saved, the hope you gave people, the way you change people and inspire them to believe in themselves and believe in their friends and comrades. What is your nindo, your ninja way?" Arashi closed his eyes and said, "To protect that which is precious to you, only then will you find true strength." Hakura said, "You have something inside you that very few have. A fire in your heart to do what is right, not what is easy. You inspired me to become more than I was, to reach my limits and surpass them. You've faced down a Biju, several minor demons, 3 members of the 7 swordsmen of the mist, slave traders, evil dictators, madmen with plans for world domination with armies of undead soldier, several S-rank missing nins, kidnappers, rapists, murders, whole armies of mercenaries. You've taken attacks from several cage-level ninja and got right back up like they were nothing. You are willing to take on all 5 cages at the same time if one of your friends were in danger, if they got in your way. I know the road has been hard for you, and with everything we lost it must feel like it was all for nothing, but you're wrong. We've been given a chance to start a new life here. One that we can control our fates and determine our destiny. You who thought you were an orphan now have a brother. When you've been walking down the road we've been down, I've been right behind you watching you. If you're too tired to go on, that you don't have the strength to continue, use mine. Let me prove to you that you do deserve happiness, that your sacrifices haven't been in vain. Let me walk beside you now and face the world with you. I told you that we are going to get married. That's not just a simple word that means we are just together, and it's not because of lack of options. I honestly want to be with you, to save you, even if it is from yourself. To join with you for the rest of our lives and then next." Arashi closed his eyes and he lowered his head to hers and rested his forehead on hers, and after several moments of people looking at them with pity or guilt, Naruto said, "I see Ne-chan why you were wearing that genjutsu seal like Ni-san used to wear. Your pink hair stands out, and if you had to hide fighting all those bad guys, it would be easy to identify you. You must be a distant relation to a girl in my class called Sakura." Both Arashi and Hakura both turned their head to look at Naruto, and it took a moment to process the information, and both thought at the same time, "Since when did I become smart enough to lie like that?" Hakura cleared her throat and said, Sakura, is she a Haruno?" Naruto nods and Hakura said, "I guess I must be then. My parents died when I was young and I never knew if there was any other Haruno or not, and you're right. Arashi designed these seals to help us hide our real identities. He had his on until earlier when that guy cut his arm and broke the seal located there. What's this Sakura girl like, if you don't mind me asking, and are there any other Haruno in Konoha? I mean, I thought I was the only one, since I've never seen anyone else with pink hair in all my years." Naruto said, "Well, she looks a lot like you with long hair, and she wears too much makeup trying to look good for Sasuke-tem, but she looks better without any on. She's a fangirl and has a mean right hook. Her chakra control is perfect, she likes cherry blossoms and granola. Her mom and dad are both merchants and deliver goods from Konoha to the feudal lord of wine country." Hakura eyebrows rose and thought, he actually knew about that. Nobody knew about that. A cough got their attention, causing all 3 to sweat drop as they saw the Sandame standing there, and he said, "Sorry to interrupt your discussion, but we still had a matter to attend to. Does anyone wish to object to the terms that were stated earlier for the Uzumaki clan to join Konoha?" No one said anything, and the Sandame said, "Then in that case I have only one final piece of business to take care of. Arashi Uzumaki, I would like for you to become my other advisor." Everyone in the room's eyes went wide, and Arashi asked, "What the hell you been smoking in that pipe to come up with that idea?" As everyone else in the room murmured, the Sandame released his ki, and after they stopped talking he said, "The reason I am asking you to be my advisor is for several reasons actually. You have proven that you know more about the world outside our village than anyone else in this room does. You have also cleaned out several traitors on the council. You have classified information on subjects that could either be used to save our village from a war or start a war. Even if you stick with the Uzumaki name, the news about you being a namikaze will soon reach the other villages. By posting you in a position like the advisors and the news, you know the Hiraishin and always in the village thanks to being the advisor, Any village that had thoughts of attacking us would have to reevaluate their plans and possibly cause them to decide to negotiate with us instead of attacking. Also, this position is just temporary for the next 6 months. He took his hat off and ran his hand through his hair and said, I am not a young man and I have already been thinking about retiring. Don't worry, it's not you. I am thinking of Tsunade actually, and when she takes over I will become the second advisor to her with Shikaku. However, should something happen to me before she returns to take over Konoha, we'll need someone who will make our enemies think twice about attacking, and also someone the people of Konoha will feel safe knowing is here to protect them from these enemies. There are others I could name, but none would scare our enemies like the second yellow flash of Konoha would. Everyone who heard the explanation thought over his words, and Arashi asked, what else are you up to? I mean, your explanation does sound good, but what are you really after that only I could provide that someone else couldn't? Sarutobi smirked and said, you were the one who revealed Danzo treachery. By giving you this position you will be exposed to the rest of the deals Danzo were involved in, and seeing as you were the one who brought him to justice, you could become our voice to not only those in the land of water who are trying to escape the civil war there, but also to those like that clan you mentioned earlier. To show the people the days of the corruption in Konoha are over. So do you accept? Arashi said. All right, I accept. Sarutobi said. Good, the civilian council is hereby dismissed for the day. The clan council still has to help discuss matters with our new clan. Hakura, Naruto, as members and future members of said clan you may stay as well. Kaharu, Homaru, you may leave, and I want you to meet Ibiki tomorrow to begin telling him everything you know about Danzo. Now that they are all gone I have something to say. Most of what you just seen or heard was complete bullshit, causing the clan heads to look confused. Shuza asked, what do you mean, Hokage-sama? Sarutobi said, Arashi and Hakura are not actually from the land of water. Where they are from is a classified secret between them and myself, as I was the only one who knew of them before now. Most of the information you heard today was given to them by me so we could take back control of the council and arrest Danzo while forcing Kaharu and Homaru out of office, so when Tsunade takes over she won't have to deal with my mistakes. I could not openly come out and arrest Danzo without starting a civil war, and taking out Kaharu and Homaru without revealing a lot of dark secrets of Konoha was next to impossible without this drastic actions. Arashi and Hakura have never been thinking of going to Iwa. Arashi said. Speak for yourself. I've had the Shadaime Tsuchikage great-granddaughter try to stab me in my balls once with her queen bee summon. I only wish I could have summoned Gambunta that day and had him eat the bastard. Sarutobi coughed as several people tried not to laugh, and Sarutobi said, anyways, as I was saying. They are not going to Iwa to live. That was just to make the people of Konoha think about how much their actions toward his brother have made Konoha look like idiots to the rest of the world. Now does anyone have any questions about what is really going on? Hiyashi asked. Yes, is that seal you were talking about real as was the law? Arashi said. Yes, both are real. Shikaku said. How strong are you? I mean, from what Hakura was saying, you would be considered an S-rank ninja. Arashi said. I'm a sage and I have surpassed Jiraiya in the sage arts from what I've been told. That is all I will say about my skills. Shibi said. Why do you have Kyuubi chakra in you? Hakura said. Actually, that was sort of my doing. You see, the poison that he was hit with that I am trying to cure has been poisoning his body and chakra system, and once a week I have to do a chakra purge on his system. I usually use my chakra, but since Naruto and Arashi are so much alike, I suggested after I saw how the Kyuubi chakra was speeding up Naruto bloodline that maybe it could help improve his as well. I had Naruto give a blood transfusion and a chakra fusion to his brother, and I am waiting on the results to see what effect it has on the poison. I've dealt with demon chakra poisoning before, and so I am aware of the risk, but so far there has only been a slight sign of harm to Arashi from the Kyuubi chakra, which his body healed quickly. Arashi and I are optimistic about the chance that since Arashi has been trained in the sage arts, he might be able to control the Kyuubi chakra in his own body, similar to what the Shadaime Hokage was known to have done outside of his body, and if so, he can train his brother in the sage arts to help him better control the Kyuubi chakra inside himself in the future as well. Sume said. So that is why you and him smelled so much alike, and how you had the fox scent also. Arashi said. Yes, I would request that you all keep that information about me being a sage and about the Kyubi chakra in me and about our plans to train my brother in the sage art are all kept secret. There is some information we could not reveal in the council meeting, and I am not at liberty to say it right now because it is too dangerous to even mention, but I can tell you this: things are in action in several different places around the elemental nations. A lot of them will come to head in our village or at our village doorsteps. I can't tell you anything else right now because I need to give this info to Jiraiya and have his spy network check on it and make sure everything is valid, but if it is valid, you need to train your family, especially the genin who just graduated. Speed, strength, stamina, endurance, chakra, and chakra control would be a good idea to work on them on. Shikaku who was thinking and said, the Chunin exams, since it's here something's going to happen here this time. Arashi looked at the Sandame who nods, and Arashi sighed and said, we have reason to believe that Orochimaru plans to attack Konoha during the Chunin exams here with his hidden village he has built. I have the name of a suspected spy that I picked up from where we have been, but I can't tell you anything else, and if the spy is real then we can use him later to give false information to Orochimaru, and if not, he is from a respected family in the village that could cause trouble for Konoha, so we can't do anything about him at this time. Also, this info can't be linked back to Hakura and me because there is a chance they could backtrack where we have been and discover how we came up with this info, which could be used against us for future information. All of this has to remain a secret, and your genin's true skill levels must be hidden until the exam for their safety. This is all rumors right now, but since we do know Orochimaru is building a village, it seems to be true. Shibi said. So you are a spymaster like Jiraiya-sama, and since he was the only one who was a sage, he must have trained you as well. Arashi said. Yes and no. He trained me through a contact, but we have never met face to face before, and if asked he will deny even knowing about me because all he had was a codename the Sandame gave him for me. Hakura was the same way with Tsunade. She was trained under her but has never actually met her directly. Just through a contact. Hiyashi said. So you were both trained by a Sanin. Hakura said. Arashi and I have both surpassed our sensei in our chosen field from what we have been told, but we are not sure ourselves since we never actually met either. Suum asked. Why you, Hakura? I can understand Arashi, but why were you chosen to be trained by Tsunade-sama? Arashi said. It was a favor to me. Hakura displayed good qualities for a medic, and I was able to get a message to the Sandame who had Tsunade begin to send lessons to her. Sarutobi said. All this info is classified, and if it leaks out I will find the party responsible and they will be punished. Clan status be damned. One by one the clan heads agreed, and Arashi said, well, if no one else has anything else to say, I think we should get some rest, and you Naruto still have your training to complete before Sunday evening. Sarutobi said. I agree, this meeting is dismissed. As he left. As everyone was leaving, Hakura and Arashi started to shushin away, and Naruto said, wait. Can't you guys give me a lift? Arashi chuckled and said. Sorry bro, you need to exercise as part of your training, CYA. As he grabbed Hakura and left in a swirl of leaves. Once Hakura and Arashi appeared at Jiraiya Place, Hakura said, I can't believe that actually worked. Arashi said. I know. I just hope things work out in the end. As he closed his eyes and he felt a pair of lips on his, making them open again as he saw Hakura kissing him, and he closed his eyes and began to kiss her as he picked her up bridal style, causing her to eep and giggle as he carried her inside and slammed the door with his foot. Back in the council room, Naruto grumbled as he was walking toward the door when he smelled a scent from earlier, and he thought, wait, bro said she needs an alpha and doesn't have one. She also said I was an alpha, maybe I can help her. As Naruto ran up to where he saw Suum walking away. When he caught her, Suum said, you okay pup, you seem to be in a hurry to catch me. As she saw him quickly catch his breath as he stopped near her. Naruto said, yeah. I don't know how to say this, so I'll just get straight to the point. I know you're in heat and need an alpha, and I remember you saying I was an alpha, and I was wondering if I could help you with your problem. Suum's sweat dropped as she looked at him and thought, did he just ask me to have with him? Kushina, your son's a MILF hunter. And asked, oh, and how do you know about that? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and said, well, I could smell it. I don't know how much I can help, but you did say I was an alpha. Suum got an amused look on her face as she looked at him and said, so you could smell it, huh? You must have heightened sense of smell to be able to do that. You do know what you are asking me to do, right? Naruto looked sheepish and said, "Not really. I just know that I was told your clan because of their bloodline is part human, part animal, and because of the fox I would be considered part human and part animal as well." Ni-san said he would explain it to me when he had more time, but he said it was a condition you have and only an alpha could help you with it, and since Kiba dad isn't around he didn't think you had an alpha to help you with it, and since it's something private I thought I could help you with it. Soom chuckled and said, "Do you know about the birds and the bees, pup?" Naruto said, "I know birds eat bees, why?" Soom said, "Oh Kushina, what would you think? Tell you what, pup, I'll take you back with me to my place and I'll explain some things that it appear nobody has told you about, and if you still want to help me with my problem after that, I'll take you up on your offer to teach you some things." With an amused look on her face, Naruto smiled and said, "You can count on me, Soom. I'll show you that I can do it." Soom chuckled and said, "We'll see, pup, we will see," as he motioned with her head to follow and began to walk toward her house. Once they got there to her clan house, they sat down on the couch in the living room and Soom said, "All right, pup, what you need to understand is what you were told about me and most likely you is true. Women in my clan because of our bloodline have times where we go into heat where we are looking for a mate to have with to possibly have children. What you asked me earlier was if you could have with me. Do you understand that?" Naruto was beet red and he started to say something when Soom said, "I see, you do know about right, the difference between males and females and about how a child is conceived." Naruto looked down and said, "Well, I know women having long hair, but I only know what I could see out of the swimsuit magazine before I was kicked out of the bookstore." Soom frowned and said, "So you don't know anything else?" And thought, of course he doesn't. Everyone tried to hinder his growth. As she grabbed his hand and Naruto looked confused as he looked at her as she got to her feet and said, "Come on." Naruto asked, "Huh?" Soom said, "This is a lesson your mom or dad should have gave you, but since they both died and I was so close to your mother, I think I should teach this to you. Would you like me to teach you about the things you should have been taught?" Naruto blushed and said, "Yeah, but." Soom said, "Don't say anything else, pup. I understand how you must feel right now, so I won't tell anyone about this, so if you want to know something I'll answer it for you. Now come on. Let's go to my room so if my kids come home they don't interrupt us." As she pulled on his arm and he got up and followed her as she led him to her room, and once in there she closed the door and locked it. Soom motioned toward the bed and said, "Sit down and don't say anything, and I want you to look at me and hold all questions until I am done." Naruto sat down on the bed and Soom turned around from him and took off her shirt and her wrappings, making Naruto wide-eyed before he closed his eyes. Soom, who had took off her shorts panties, turned around and growled, "Look at me." Naruto eyes opened and they went wide-eyed as he looked at her before he blew back with a nosebleed. After he woke up he found himself on Soom's bed with a rag on his face and Soom said, "All right, pup, now you can't be passing out on me like that. Now look at me." As she stood there with her hands on her hips, Naruto said, "But." Soom growled and said, "I told you to look at me." Naruto gulped and looked at her and his eyes trailed up and down her body and she said, "Now I want you to do the same as me, pup. Take everything off." Naruto swallowed hard as he slowly stood up and took off his jacket before he took off his shirt and pants, and Soom said, "Boxers also." Naruto blushed and Soom growled as she walked over and ripped his boxers down and thought, "Holy shit," as she looked at his erect member. Soom felt herself becoming wet and she sat down on the bed and said, "All right, pup, you know how you said you could smell I was in heat? Well, that was your senses and instincts telling you I was in heat. I want you to close your eyes and relax yourself, breath in and breath out. Now I don't want you to think, just listen to your instincts and do as they tell you to do. If you do something wrong I'll tell you." Naruto opened his mouth and said, "R." He shut up as she glared and growled at him and he swallowed as he looked at her and he slowly walked over to her as he got down on his knees by her and he sniffed the air, smelling the sweet scent even stronger, and he went down to her folds as he smelt the sweet scent coming from, and he looked at Soom, who said, "Listen to your instincts. Trust is something primal. It's not something you think about or know about, it's something you just have to do what your instincts tell you to do." Naruto closed his eyes and he sniffed again as he smelt the scent and he felt his mouth becoming wet, wanting to devour the taste of what he smelled, and he lowered his head and began to lick at her folds, causing Soom to close her eyes and lean back. As Naruto was licking her, he felt himself become bolder and felt his desire and lust take over him as he began to increase the speed he was going, and Sume's eyes shot open and she thought, "Oh my, he's going to make me come." As she felt herself orgasm, she tried to tighten her legs around his head and Naruto growled at her as he kept her legs open, and Sume frowned as she looked down at him and said, "Pup. Pup. Naruto." Naruto growled as he looked at her as he continued to look at her, and Sume thought, his eyes, they're slitted and slightly darker blue. Shit, is Kyuubi affecting him? And she said, "Stop, pup." Naruto ignored her and she tried to push him away, and he grabbed her hands and flipped her over onto her stomach as he landed on her back as he got beside her ears and growled at her. Sume thought, oh shit. He's got my arms pinned and his weight's where I can't do anything at the moment. Damn it, his animal instincts are taking over. As she heard him sniffing around her neck as he got to her collarbone, he growled, and Sume's eyes widened as she realized what he was about to do, and she growled as well at him, and he squeezed her arms that he still held pinned, causing her to whimper, and he sunk his teeth into her collarbone as he began to lick the blood from where he bit her. He then scooted down, and before she knew it, he slammed into her. Sume arched her back as she growled at him, and she looked back at him, seeing his eyes gloss over as he continued to slam into her, picking up his pace. Sume felt her body reacting to this and she began to push back, meeting his thrust, and she thought, "You want me to be your bitch, pup? You're going to have to earn it." As she tried to make him submit to her. 3 hours later, Kiba and Hana were in the kitchen of the Inuzuka compound, and Kiba said, "Damn it, who the hell is in there with mom?" Hana said, "I don't know, Kiba, but they were at it an hour ago when we got home, and you know better than to disturb mom, especially now." Kiba said, I know, I just wish I knew who it was in there with. What the hell?" As they heard a howl. Hana laughed and said, "Sounds like mom really was getting into it." Kiba frowned and got up and walked over to the sink and got him a glass of water, and after he drank the water he turned back around and he saw Naruto walk into the room and he spat out his water, and Hana screamed, "What the hell, mutt?" Kiba said, "That's what I want to know. What the hell are you doing here dead last, and why are you?" Hana turned around and looked at Naruto, blushed and said, "So you and mom, huh? Never saw that happening." As she smelled Sume on him. Kiba saw Naruto looking at Hana with a glossed over look, and he slammed his glass into the sink, breaking it, and he said, "What the?" As he stomped over to Naruto, and when he went to grab Naruto, Naruto grabbed him and slammed him into the wall and growled at him. Kiba growled back as he tried to get free, as Hana said, "Let him go." As she got into a ready stance to fight Naruto. Just then Sume ran into the room still and looking exhausted, and she screamed, "Stop!" Making everyone look at her. Naruto growled at her and she said, "Kiba, listen to me, submit to him and don't do anything threatening. He's not in control of himself right now and will see you as any alpha will any other male who might challenge them. Please." In a commanding voice until the end where she was begging. Kiba frowned and tried to get free, and Sume said, "Kiba." Kiba growled but lowered his head, and Naruto growled by his ears as he sniffed the air, and Sume saw Naruto eyes lock onto Hana, and she moved in front of Hana and said in a commanding tone, "Hana, completely submit on the ground now." As she growled at Naruto. Hana said, "What's going on, mom?" As she slowly lowered herself to her knees and then lowered her head as Naruto watched her. Sume said, "I made a mistake trying to teach Naruto something, and Naruto lost control of his instincts because of it, and now they are controlling him." As she moved away from Hana toward Naruto. Naruto growled at her as he grabbed her arm and slammed her into the wall next to Kiba, and he still held Kiba to the wall with one of his arms. Naruto sniffed the air around Sume's neck and he growled and looked at Kiba, who was glaring at him, and Naruto showed his teeth that had turned into fanged canines as he growled at Kiba. Sume looked at Kiba as she heard Naruto growl at him and she said, "Kiba, submit." Kiba glared at his mom and then cast his eyes down and lowered his head. Sume saw Naruto sniffing the air and turned his head to Hana, and she looked at Hana, who was on the ground on her stomach looking at the ground, and her eyes went wide and said in a quiet voice, "Hana, are you in heat?" Hana said, "Yes, he's after me, isn't he?" Still not moving. Sume looked at Naruto and said, "Yes." Hana said, "Stop, mom. I understand. Remember Kiba after he hit puberty, we had to lock him in the kennel with the dogs. That won't work on him, will it?" Sume frowned and said, "No. He's stronger than me right now. I tried to stop him when I realized he lost control and he forced me to submit to him. Just stay down and act weak. Hopefully he won't see you as a worthy mate. Hannah said. No, Mom. Keep Kiba here and keep him from doing something stupid. I'll lead him to my room. Soom said. My room, Hannah, and I'll come with you. Maybe between us we can wear him out enough to pass out. We can't let him leave here like this or he could hurt someone or he could be killed and it would be my fault. Please, Hannah. Just stay down and it won't be long before he sees me as the alpha female and try to mate with me again. Hannah said. Mom, you're exhausted already and he looks like he's going to be a while. If you do much more then he will hurt you. I know what I'm doing. Soom frowned and said. All right, Hannah. You do realize why he is like this, right? Hannah said. Yeah, I know. Explain it to the mutt. Get ready. At that moment Naruto leapt at Hannah and Hannah bolted out the swinging door as Naruto landed where she had been before he darted after her. Kiba began to move toward the door to follow them when Soom grabbed him and slammed him against the wall and said, Kiba, don't interfere. I'll explain everything to you later, but I have to help Hannah calm Naruto down. Kiba said. But, Soom said. Please, son, if you won't do it as my son, then I order you as clan head to stay out of this for now. Once everything is under control again, I will explain everything. Kiba frowned and said, Fine. But if you need me, I'll be waiting in the living room. Soom nods and left quickly. When she got to her room, she saw Naruto with several cuts and scratches on his chest, arms, and stomach from Hannah claws, and Hannah was on her stomach with her cloths torn to pieces, but Naruto was standing there not moving. Soom closed the door and locked it and she said quietly, Hannah, are you alright? Hannah, whose face was down in a pillow, said, Yes, he froze when I cried out when I hit my head on the headboard and he hasn't moved since. Naruto, who was looking at his hands like he never seen them before, began to sway from side to side before he fell to the ground, passed out. Soom was by his side in an instant and took a deep breath and let it out and said, Finally, boy's got some stamina for his age, but the adrenaline gone and he's out. You can get up now. Hannah sat up and Soom winced and said, You're going to have a goose egg from that one. Are you okay though? Hannah nods and said, Is he alright? Soom looked at Naruto and saw the wounds on his body healing and she said, Yeah, looks like his bloodline is kicking in. Go get your brother and change cloths and come back and help me with him. I'll explain everything then. Hannah nods and left the room as Soom got up and grabbed a bathrobe and wrapped it around her and said, Pup, that was one hell of night. Just then Kiba and Hannah, who had grabbed a bathrobe, also came in and Kiba glared at Naruto and Soom said, Stop, Kiba. It's my fault. Kiba said, What the hell's going on, Mom? Soom said, Help me set him up on the bed and cover him up and I'll explain everything. As she moved to pick Naruto up and Hannah helped her. Once Naruto was in bed, Soom said, Alright. You know how women in our clan are a little different than other women because of our bloodline, right? Well, I was in heat today and Naruto was able to tell it. He wasn't sure exactly what it was, but he asked around and his brother told him that I was in heat and only an alpha could help me since he didn't have time to explain it completely. Naruto remembered when I called him an alpha earlier and he offered to help me even though he didn't know what he could do. I asked him a couple of questions and learned all he knew about mating, or even anatomy between males and females was what he saw in a swimsuit magazine, causing both her children to blink in shock at that. Kiba said. But, never mind, his parents are dead and we don't cover that at the academy, so what happened? Soom said. Well, I brought him back here and tried to explain things to him and so I decided to use myself and him as a model. I showed him what I looked like and had him also stripped so I could explain things to him. Before I tell you anything else, I want to ask you both, do you remember the history I told you both about our clan, where we got our bloodline? Both nod and Soom started to say something when Naruto groaned and said in a tired tone, What happened? Oh my head. Causing everyone to look at him. Soom walked over and sat down on the bed and set his head in her lap and asked, Are you alright? Naruto looked confused and said, Soom, what happened? Everything a blur to me right now. My head feels like I got the shit beat out of me and my body aches. Soom asked, What's the last thing you remember? Naruto scrunched his eyes and nose and said, I'm not sure. Everything seems to be in a haze. Remember you telling me to trust my instincts, and I remember that sweet smell and wanting it. I remember licking you, and then things get hazy, and I remember you were on your stomach and I was licking your blood from your neck, and then things get hazy again until I was behind you thrusting forward and feeling good. Does that make any sense to you? Sume said. Yeah. Anything else? Naruto was rubbing his forehead and said, I'm not sure. I had this nightmare where I had Kiba against the wall and a voice in my head was screaming at me to rip out his throat. It scared me. Kiba's eyes widened as he heard this, and Sume asked, anything else? Naruto said, a girl, oh god. No, 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 I killed her, Sume. I killed her. There was blood and she wasn't moving. Oh god, what did I do? As he began to get frantic. Hana at that moment ran over and wrapped Naruto in a hug and said, Shish, calm down. It's alright, you didn't kill me. As Naruto tried to get free and he was in shock. It took several minutes to calm down Naruto, and he looked around and saw Kiba and asked, What happened to me, Sume? What did I do? With fear in his voice as he looked at her. Hana was sitting behind him with her arms wrapped around him, holding his hands to keep him from harming himself. Sume sighed and said, Naruto. I know what happened and I need to explain it to you and my children here, but in order to do that I need your permission to tell your secret. Naruto frowned and said, so it was that. A voice startling all of them said, no, as they saw Arashi appear dropping Jiraiya peeping jutsu. Sume growled and said, what are you doing here and how did you get here?